Thank goodness we're not live. Now I can do things behind the camera, safe, knowing that no one can see. Yep, just your regular Wednesday show. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Just your regular Wednesday activity at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Normal setup, Panda in the background, and just my normal wear. Something that I wear every day. Something that was not picked out purposefully, but something that was just, I happen to have on. Yep. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
That was the longest that he has ever been up there. I like your glasses, Petty.
Thank you. I wear these all the time. Like, I'm surprised you even noticed.
Do you?
Yeah. Go back and...
You know, I've seen you wear glasses before. The time that I thought they were a filter. I remember. Yeah, you're right.
So this means my co-hosts don't care about me. My co-hosts don't pay attention to me. My co-hosts don't. It's fine. How are you doing?
I haven't seen you here in a long time.
I see you're glowing today. What can I do to glow? I want to.
I wanted to wear my usual all black, but it was like $650, and I was like, I have to wear something. So here I am wearing a color. I don't like it, but whatever.
Yeah,
hey, G, welcome. Hey, everyone. Kay, Petty, how are you both?
Hello.
No one is missing. This is the entire gang.
You said, how was my week, or what were you asking? Did somebody ask how my week was?
Yeah, I said, where's Anna? Who is Anna? I'm kidding. Anna will be late.
She'll be here.
How was your week, Petty?
Oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't even know why y'all like.
All right, great. Kay, how was your week?
He said, okay, great. Moving on. My week's been going pretty good so far. You know, nothing out of the ordinary. Just regular week. Doing some packing. We're moving soon. So that's...
Hey, y'all, seen the CBS story about Black women in Chicago? What? Have y'all seen? No, I haven't. Please send that to me. I have not seen it. Thank you, Sultry Love Child. I will look into that. All right. Not CBS story. I need to look into it. Patty, how are you? Are you glad to be back on Wednesdays?
I'm glad to be back on Wednesdays because now I can use Saturday to do devious activities in the city.
Gotcha.
I won't elaborate.
Have you guys, thank you, 2Ls. I need to check the Discord. I was working today. Have you guys watched The Ultimatum?
Nope.
They have a lesbian version, and it is a mess. It is just a mess. So apparently all the relationships are just crumbling. Anywho, I wanted today to talk about relationships because I had some questions that I wanted to get into. The first question, and I think I should include the audience in some of the topics. So let me pull this up so I can do polls when we are ready. I do have a first question. It is, do you believe women have historically been subjugated?
Yes.
Yes.
How? Petty. How?
Um, when you don't have like the right to do anything, I would call that subjugation, right? If you don't have the right, for example, to in some parts of the world still leave your home without a man present, if you don't have the right to open your own bank account, if you don't have the right to work or to educate yourself, um, and pretty much your purpose exists to serve man, then I believe this is subjugation.
All right.
I
And
agree with Betty.
all right. So if this is true, do you think that wait, why do you think women have been subjugated? If you have to come up with your best argument for a reason as to why women were subjugation.
I think men are physically stronger. So a when I'm thinking about it from a historical lens, the people who are strongest are probably going to have the most power in a society. And I think there was an abuse of this power. I don't know why. Maybe it's just inherently male nature. Maybe it's just power corrupts. I don't know. That is my five
Wait,
second
so
theory.
that would be like the prehistoric sexual dimorphism, right? Like the strength and size, men's strength and size relative to women.
So you're saying like a biological argument?
No, I'm asking if that's the argument you're making.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Kate? Oh.
Famous, are you talking about like in terms of the origins for why this subjugation started?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would say that. I would say that along with like thinking about the fact that women were probably more likely to be like at home or wherever child rearing. So the men were out like doing whatever. And we're talking about very, very long ago. So they ended up being the ones that were, I guess, gaining power in whatever way they were out gaining power over their territory or wherever they were in their communities or whatever, things like that. And then along with what Petty was saying too. So I think that's how like it originally started. And then religion as well, I think.
So, I mean, one could say religion came about, well, depending on how you view religion, but it justifies it. So, do you think it is natural then, the way that the world male female relationship in human have developed, as opposed to, I was going to say lines, but I don't want to talk about that because I disagree with the idea.
Mm, natural, maybe. I want to be careful about how I phrase this. I think we've kind of progressed past that though.
You mean natural, like inherent, like this is just how it was going to be?
Natural in terms of this is sort of expected, not that it had to be it, but like this would be expected based on human nature.
Yeah. With that definition, I think it will be natural. Yeah.
I don't think that the way things are now um would necessarily be natural. Um no, I wouldn't say that. I think there are certain things that are natural, like a woman being more involved in terms of like especially the earlier years of a child's life and things like that. Like I think that's natural. But the way things are now in our society in general, I don't think so. I think it's very much because of how people are socialized.
All right, let's take a detour. I would love y'all's input on Tabitha Brown. I keep messing up her name, the vegan lady, saying
Mm.
she doesn't trust women around her husband. I actually wanted to give my opinion on this. I was going to wait till Friday, but we can do it now because did y'all hear about this?
Nope, but I've heard about Tabitha Brown generally.
Yeah,
Me
well,
too.
she's like she does not trust single women around her husband.
What made her say that?
She was doing a live with her husband of sorts, and the topic came up. There's not much context to it, but essentially she just articulated that she knew her husband was fine, and thus she does not trust single women around her husband.
Does she trust her husband around single women?
All right, so that's my take. I don't think it's a matter of the women.
If I'm
I,
being if I'm being generous, if I said something like I don't trust single men around my woman, I completely understand concern about somebody being touchy-feely on my partner.
and do you think that's the same for a man?
Nope, not generally. Nope.
All right. So when you say you don't trust women around your man, what you're saying is that your man has no self-control and is a wannabe.
That's I think that would be the least generous argument to give. I think mine would be the most, even though I don't think it's
But
generally
if
applicable.
you don't think it happens, why would that be the
I don't
most?
think it's generally applicable, but that doesn't mean she can't believe it.
Okay, wait. Now let's get into this. Is it not obvious then that she's saying she don't trust her husband?
That would be my interpretation.
All right. But there is another interpretation, and what is the other one? That the women are going to tie him down to a bed?
I know that this man is attractive, and when he go out, people gonna swarm to him. Somebody might not like that, even if they think their partner won't engage with it.
Who has an obligation?
The husband.
All right. So why would you have to trust or not trust other people?
Oh, trust. I don't think you would need to trust the women. I think she's just expressing
All
that
right. So
she don't like the idea.
the only reasonable interpretation is that I don't trust my husband because they don't owe you anything. You shouldn't have to trust them. You don't know them. So there should be any trust.
Okay, you said a reasonable explanation. Do you feel like Tabitha Brown is a reasonable person?
Generally, I don't know her. I mean, she retired her husband, so maybe not, but yeah.
Okay. Well, she's reasonable. That's a reasonable take. I won't fight it.
Wait, so, but you have a problem with it.
No, my understanding, I'm with you when you say that it don't matter about the women because your husband has the obligation. If I'm being generous to what she's saying, I would say she's just doesn't like the idea of women being touchy-feely or around her husband, ogling, flirting, or whatever, because she thinks her man is sexy, even if she doesn't necessarily think that he will violate her trust.
That was one of the interpretations that, like, just hearing about this
If
for the
I
first
add the word alone, does that change anything?
She doesn't trust the women around her, women alone around her husband,
Mm-hmm.
as in her husband's not with her.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
I would still give it the same take.
How? Because they can be flirty with you there.
Yeah, but without you there, they would probably be more likely to be flirting.
does she
I
mean
would take it the same.
does
So,
she mean that she doesn't trust they're not gonna flirt with him? Like, is she saying she doesn't trust that they would not flirt because he's so attractive or whatever? Or is she saying that she doesn't trust that, like, nothing will happen?
well, I think the latter. I think he thinks her husband is not trustworthy. But I'm not done. Why would it just be single women?
I assume those would be the most likely to that people would think would be likely to engage with a man.
So we're not seeing married people cheat with each other, on each other, with each other, with men, with women,
Yeah, but
with them.
I think people generally trust married people, even though married people cheat, more than they trust single people to do.
So is that a hierarchy of sorts
You're
in
gonna have
terms
to
of trust?
you're gonna have to break that word down into 2 syllables or less.
Do you believe that there is a hierarchy being created in Tabitha mind, which put trust
Yeah.
in certain
Yes, I believe
women.
she trusts married women, men, whatever, more than single women.
So, what is the value placement that she's putting on people who are not married, single women? What is she saying?
She doesn't think they have an obligation to their partner, so they would be out here. They don't have an obligation to a partner, so they can't cheat on anybody, so they can hit on who they want, right?
Yeah, so she believes that they're more likely to impede on her marriage.
Yes.
All right. So, let's continue. Wait, go ahead, Katie. You wanted to add something?
You said there was no more context, right? Like that there was not really much else
Yeah.
said about that. Yeah, I mean, I think my first thought would be, well, do you trust your husband around them? And my second thought would be, like I said earlier, does she just mean that she thinks that they'll be flirty or whatever around her husband?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Petty was attempting a good faith, ascribing to her not reasonable ideas, but like he's trying to Iron Man her concerns, which is not bad. It's just very clear to me that she don't trust him. Yes, it started with a bat to the head in the Caucasus Mountain because she wasn't coming to his dusty cave on her own. Not that he dragged her to the cave. Tab saying he weak, so he excused. Miss Brown looks and has the energy of a grandmother. I don't see him being attracted. No,
Wait, what?
no.
Somebody mentioned that once because she like has the whole like kind of auntie thing going on, but she's a lot younger than a lot of people thought, and I think that that's just her, her, the thing
Aura.
that works for her, what she's marketing, I guess. I don't know, but somebody did bring that up before, that she gives off like an older vibe. But again, I think that this has a lot to do with just, how people want to market themselves and what works in terms of what you're trying to market. And so,
Yeah.
The people in question. Who looks younger? Off the head, Themis then K.
I mean, I just don't understand. So she's not worried about men?
Is
what
he?
do you mean?
Is
Huh?
he? You know.
What?
Wait, you mean she's not worried about men coming on to him?
Mm-hmm.
Does he? Is he
And
giving
no
something
one
that
said
I'm
that,
missing?
Petty. Don't ask no questions. Read the super chat. No one said that.
Two L's. So men aren't the leaders then. They're so weak to a woman's whim, they'll acquiesce to the scent of perfume. How can they lead sorrows and prayers? Does this look like a man who would just follow the scent of some woman's perfume? Absolutely not. Look at the masculine frame for a second
What?
and appreciate it. Curry up and eat. In the military, spouses mess with spouses. Singles make things messy. Not that I know personally. No, that sounds like you know very personally. That came from down somewhere. That
Cairo, welcome to the membership.
Hi, Cairo.
Ashley, welcome to the membership. All right. So we are all in agreement then.
Yeah, she looks younger. I think.
I think are they about the same age?
That we weren't talking about that. We were talking about anyway. All right. So let's jump forward. Thank you, Sinji. That was actually very useful. What I mean is that she's not sexy.
Hmm.
She's sexy to someone. Petty thinks she's sexy.
Yeah, what's wrong with Tabitha Brown physically? Okay, crickets. Anywho,
That's
All
what's
right.
wrong with her.
So let's do it then. Do you think women are subjugated today? Okay.
I think
In Western society?
in Western society, not in the same way as women have been in the past, but I do think that there are still things that happen to subjugate women. Yes.
All right. So you think women are subjugated today in the Western society? Prince Betty.
I think so, yes.
All right. How?
I think there are, even though it's not overt like it was in the past, and there's not a literal removal of your rights, so to speak, there's still kind of social expectations that would make women kind of subordinate to men. Maybe in the workplace would be a good example, maybe in the household, in social settings generally. I think we still have ideas around women to kind of view them as less than men.
And just generally, like politically or whatever, women just don't have as much power in certain areas.
Does lack of power equal subjugation?
Um, it depends on how you're defining it. If you're thinking of it as like someone with a lower position, I would say yes.
Yeah,
Someone
like
with a lower position in society.
yeah, like I think if you have control over someone or a group, they are
Wait.
subjugated.
All right. Let's step back a little then. Does a democracy have a president in the US?
I assume so, yes, yes.
Not in every democracy, but in the US. Are the people under the president being quote unquote subjugated?
Technically, I would say yes. Colloquially, no, probably not.
All right.
No, because of the whole like quote unquote balances of power and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Like the president doesn't have like ultimate power to just be like, this is what's going to happen.
So power differential does not equal subjugation.
I think it depends also on, do you believe that we the people are equal to the president in power as a collective?
So is equality the touchstone for subjugation? Like if you are not equal, you're subjugated.
If you're considered less than, I would call it subjugation. If you're put in a place.
If you're under the control of.
Let's define subjugation then. Subjugation is the action of bringing someone or something under domination or control.
Yeah.
So if you don't have power, if someone has more power than you, are you de facto subjugated?
I guess technically, yes.
Only if they're controlling you, right? Like
So, yeah.
if it's totally unrelated, then not necessarily. Like someone might have power, I don't know, somewhere, and it has nothing to do with you, for example, and you wouldn't be subjugated in that instance as it relates to them.
All right. So power differential does not equal subjugation.
No, the powers, it would have to be related. Like,
all right. And not only related, but being used.
Yes.
All right. The idea that women don't have power, as much power as men, now needs to take another step in contemporary society for it to be subjugation. How are women subjugated, Patty, in today's society?
Wait, I didn't agree to K. I would still call that subjugation. It would be technical. Practically, probably not, though.
You were talking about what he just said about like.
Yeah, with the definition of control and domination.
Wait, how?
Googling domination. But if I'm thinking about it technically, wouldn't something like being subject to law make you subjugated, or being subject to?
Yeah, but you are subject to law means that you're under the law, thus you are being in some ways controlled by, but I don't know if you would say dominated. But yes, that's to the law specifically. It does not mean that because someone has more power that you are subject to them or that they are controlling you. So you can have someone with a ton of power and you having none without being subjugated.
Okay.
Do you agree with that? Because we can't move on if you don't agree with them.
I will agree.
All right. How are women subjugated?
They are not, under these pretenses. I don't believe they are.
Really? In today's society, you don't think women are subjugated?
No, subjugated would be too strong a word, I guess, if you're thinking about control and domination.
Do women control their bodies in terms of reproduction?
Oop. Depends on where you live. So I would give to that actually, depending on where you live in the
All right.
US.
And in a corporate setting, which you brought up, women tend to be do well without getting the privilege of being moved up the rank in like business at the rate of men.
Okay. So this will be the same. These will be the same example I provided at the beginning.
Yeah, but a step further. Like that's I wanted it to be like kind of tying the power differential to like the use of that power to elevate one group while dominating the other and how that plays out.
Okay.
Yeah, and those things you mentioned that was where my head went when you first asked the question about women being subjugated nowadays. And even though like with the the control over our bodies and things like that, like there's legislation about that, but some of the things, like in terms of maybe the workplace or something like that, aren't like written into law specifically about women, but certain things still happen. So like even though it's not necessarily written into law, like women can't do this or women won't do that, doesn't mean that there is no subjugation there, just based on societal things that have been tradition for so long.
All right, so to the very next and more important question now that we've built up, should men and women in Western society, let's use America, be equal and treated equally? You can say Tabs act old and complain about Tokyo Tony not acting her age. Go ahead.
The question again.
Should men and women in America, let's use America, be treated equally? Why or why not?
Um, should they be treated equally? I think currently no. If you have someone who's being subjugated, obviously they're in a lower position in society. So to treat people equally when there's unfairness is to be blind to that unfairness in my mind. So there needs to be a disproportionate treatment to elevate the woman, so to speak, at least until
So,
society is equal.
so equity instead of
Equity.
equality.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I would say too.
And we would do that to sort of balance things out, to create some level of equal access, even if not equal outcome.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
I feel like you're tricking us. What?
No, I'm not tricking. No. I want to build up because I want a framework. Usually, I would just ramble off right now to then get to the point where the discussion is having. But I think it's good for us to have the discussion together to get to a point. I'm not tricking. I'm not tricking at all. All right. So, women and men should have equal access to political power. You will agree with that.
Hmm.
Yes.
All right. And in terms of war, do you think women should be drafted?
I do. Well, I don't think there should be a draft. If there is a draft, I do think it should be applied equally.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there should be a draft either. Um, and I don't think, I've wondered about this before in terms of like fighting on the front lines. But no, I don't think that, I think it should be equitable. It shouldn't be equal. So whatever that looks like, in terms of all the different positions and whatnot that there are in the military, maybe that could work in some ways, but not in terms of just like frontline fighting. Hey, Anna.
Hello, hello.
Mm.
Anna, do you think women are subjugated currently?
Yeah.
All right. Do you think, Patty, well, before we come to you, Anna, Patty, do you think women should be drafted? Why? You said women should be drafted. Why?
I do only because I would treat both genders as equal in this place specifically.
So, and do you care for the continuing a population?
Um, No.
Huh?
He said, no.
So, which I don't want to say disposable. When it comes to continuing a population, which gender do you need more of?
I
Women.
assume the women.
And do you understand why sending women to war drafting women might have a problem?
Yeah, I can understand the opposing argument, I think.
But you think that's equal?
Yeah, when I look to the military, I don't think I apply discrimination there based on gender. I think I would apply it based on physicality, which would probably eliminate most women anyway.
But does physicality matters for a woman's ability to, I don't know, reproduce?
Not necessarily, but it does to fight a war.
Yeah, but then you have a balance to make about continuing a healthy population versus sending women to war and potentially destroying a population.
Well,
Maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. How should I be thinking about it?
I don't think about continuing a population. I don't think I have like a
Petty doesn't care if the population grows, shrinks, stays the same.
Can I just say something? Because first of all, it's extremely rude for me to come in and not say hi to my people, them, aka the people in the chat in our community. Hello, people. I love you. Also, we're reunited and it feels so good. But I also just want to say, has anybody seen the movie Ricky Bobby or Talladega Nights? Who's seen that movie? No? Will Ferrell? Oh, you guys are garbaggio. What comes to mind sometimes when I hear petty talk is there's a scene when one of the kids says to his grandfather, someone didn't love you enough when you were little. And that's sometimes what I think when I hear petty talking. So, in his very nihilistic sort of that undercurrent. Watch that movie. Maybe you'll have a better appreciation maybe of life and people.
Let's go to you then, Anna. Do you think women should be drafted?
Absolutely not. For what? Why?
All
because they're equal?
Should men and women be treated equally and have equal access?
Access to
political position, resources, all of that.
So I actually don't think that men and women are that equal. I think that women have more value. I think they're more valuable than the dogs them, I think.
It's giving misandry, but continue.
I mean, it gives what it gives because it is what it is at the end of the day. We don't need a surplus of men. You guys can go to war. You can use your bodies as human shields and whatnot. But with respect to continuing a population and populating the world women are mucho importante. We're very important. So that's maybe it's equity. Maybe I'm thinking of equity. So there are things that women possess that men don't possess.
Anna, Petty,
but how important it is it's more important than anything
Petty,
else.
how do you respond to this?
I'm gonna need you to repeat that because I'm definitely looking up the draft to see what is going on with the draft because maybe
we have not had a draft in like 50 years. Like it's fine.
I think what you said about women having access to political power was interesting because the implication of women not being sent to give their life for their country to me feels like there might be a political implication there that if
here it is. Can the woman for both women who said no, how do you justify then a woman being commander-in-chief? I'm
sorry, so I just got here. That's number one. So
yeah, but if you don't think women should be drafted, and they are not, they have never been. They've never been. How do we justify? I can, and I won't do it live because this is yours hot seat. Women being commander in chief, but not being mandated to serve if needed for their country, but also take the role of commander in chief.
I think if you're being
Not you, Petty. You already said you don't have to justify because you would draft both.
You would, Petty?
Yeah, apparently.
You're like.
To be fair, he said that he would want to abolish the draft. So if no one signed up and we're at war, no one fights. So that's Petty's
So
world.
Petty. So Petty, or at least it seems. Petty is nihilistic and then misogynistic. Is that
question
it?
was, how would you justify commander in chief if women don't?
I know. I just have to acknowledge your misogyny and red pill pathology.
By the way, these are red pill talking points you guys are up against. They're just very more refined because they're coming from someone more refined. But
I don't understand. So because a woman isn't going to fight, she couldn't possibly.
I mean, a woman can fight, right? They can choose to be a part of the military.
Okay. But the question was, how do you justify women not fighting but being commanders in the army?
No, commander in chief is the president.
Yeah.
My Canadianness just told on myself. Okay. Kay, you take a stab at this.
So I would justify it by the fact that even if a woman were president, like right now, still women are not holding as much political power as men. Like just generally in day to day.
I mean, stating the fact now doesn't change what you would create, right? And so, like, my answer, the answer I'm looking for is a reason as to how you reconcile not being drafted while also being able to hold that kind of political power. Cantor On has been a member for 20 months. She said, if we are drafted, it better be an intellectually heavy role and not a physically demanding one. Let the men fight. Go ahead.
I think the question that you're asking, like, I would understand it more if, like, the House, the Senate, like, you know, mayors and governors were mostly women. Like, if women just generally had most of the political power in the country, then I could understand the question.
I don't understand what that, like, I don't understand how that speaks.
Why does it matter?
Yeah, like the commander.
Because I get what you're saying, because, like, you're thinking of war like as its own like separate thing from like day-to-day living. But if you're going to like fight for a country, you would think, I don't know, that's just in my head, that's what I'm thinking. Like if women just generally had more power in politics and policy.
We get the power generally. We're talking about the power in a very specific area that it's not mandatory for you in, but that you are going to lead that area.
That's like saying, how can you be the coach if you're not going to be out there playing the game? Like you can still be the coach.
Those who don't play coach.
Like you can definitely still be the coach if you're not playing in the championship, right? So
I feel like this is sidestepping should I explain how this is sidestepping the question?
I don't understand the question. Kay, do you fully understand the question?
I think that I understand it because you're asking like for the military specifically. That's why you're talking about like, you know, because the president has that power over.
We're talking about only two, like, well, people are going to kill. We're talking about genders. Let me not say only two because whatever. But like, we're talking about genders. And so we're talking about whether or not gender should be relevant to a position that oversees a group that one gender is not required to be a part of.
The answer is no. Kay, and you agree, right, Kay?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that I don't think that women should be
No,
banned.
I know your answer. I'm asking why.
Because I don't think that's relevant. Like, you or your gender going to war is not relevant to whether or not you can lead.
But it is important to you for if you get to serve.
Can I just say, having the capacity to fight is, it's not the same as having the capacity to lead and to guide. Those are not the
Should
same
it be?
skill sets.
Wait,
Those are not, no, it should not be. I think one is extremely specialized, and I think the other is much, I think it's predicated much more on physicality, which
Wait,
really
by the way, wait,
is not a skill
one
set.
second. I want to address this. I keep seeing a lot of presidents never went to war. I think that is sidestepping the issue. Also, it is not about whether or not you've been to war or not been to war. You can go to war, I can't go to war. That's not the issue. The issue has to do primarily and fundamentally with the idea that one group is going to be forced to go to war where another isn't, but that group can become the leader. There is a very obvious answer. Not obvious. I think it's obvious to me because of what I'm thinking, but Kay wasn't so far from it.
And another thing too, I don't know, I'm not sure, because like you said, there's not been a draft in my life, but I don't think you get drafted if you're over like 30 or 35 or something, right? But you have to be at least 35 to be the president. So like, whoever is the president is not going to be it's not going to be part of the group.
Sidestepping because you were in the running to be drafted, so to speak, while you were younger.
Yeah, but you're still not part of that group that would be drafted.
But you were while other people were never. I feel like you guys should wrestle with this some more.
But I think that you should. Why don't we try to understand why?
No, I think there is an indignant, and the indignant is blocking the ability to, I think, actually grapple with it. Because I feel like you're like, it's so obvious, like, no, as opposed to like really engaging with, like, why? Because the Manosphere, for all the awards, and they have a lot of them, they bring this up a lot, not in this way. And I think that I don't see satisfactory answers. I have multiple, but
Themis, I feel like we did talk about it. I feel like we did talk about it, even if it was only briefly and maybe even pedantically. I think that if we're talking about war, then you're talking about a population, an economic, a political rebuild. So you're going to need a surplus of one gender over another. That's just it's a biological fact. That's the way that God made us. I don't want to. Okay, where we decide what we are, but at the end of the day, I think that women going to war is not advantageous for men either. So men having most political power in the contemporary world, I think that they understand the importance and the value that women have with respect to the rebuilding of population, the rebuilding of of an economy. You don't need a surplus of women. It's not about, like, I don't understand. There's nothing to grapple with. Women give birth, men don't.
And that is why I'm not going to respond to this prompt, because when you say there's nothing to grapple with, it's an indignant that, like, it feels so indignant that it's like, why would you dare? And so that blockage, I think, prevents you from grappling with the question. I don't think you guys are willing to grapple with this question, and I don't know why.
I think there's grappling to be done. I'm just trying to understand. I mean, because I think my main thought about it is just looking at like the climate of the country now. And it's like, should women be going to fight with the position that women are in right now? Like, it doesn't even seem like something women should
Okay,
be.
so that's part one, right? You've decided women should not be drafted. It should be a choice.
Yeah, not frontline fighting. No.
But men should.
Well, I don't like Petty said, I don't like the draft in the
But
first
in a
place.
world where you have to, men should.
Yeah, if there had to be a draft and it had to be men or women, yes, men should be the ones.
But women can be the commander of the men who are drafted. Why?
Why not? What? I feel like it's not the same skill set. Knowing how to fight is not. It's a different skill set that you have to possess or acquire, so that you don't have the muscular physicality somehow, or that you're not going to be fighting somehow takes away from your ability or your acumen to lead and to guide or to give orders.
So you don't think women have the skill set to fight wars?
I don't think that women have the physical skill set to fight against men. No.
Right, like is everyone drafting women, or is it like the other country will have their male military?
I'm sorry, if you guys already laid down the foundational groundwork for this hypothetical, that's my fault. And if
no, foundation has been laid down. So you guys are agreeing that men are bigger and stronger on average, which is a scientific fact in your minds. Therefore, men can be put on the front line, and women can be the leader of the men on the front lines. And that you say it's because of different skill set.
I'm saying that the skill set required to fight is different from the skill set required to command. And the skill set to command has nothing to do with your anatomical makeup.
I agree with that.
All right. Women typically are primary caregivers. If they get drafted, who is going to care for children during war and maintain a functioning society like women did in previous wars, World War I and World War II? Thank you. All right. So now, we are at women and men aren't equal.
Yeah, women are more valuable. Foop.
Women and men are different.
I didn't ask that. Are men and women equal, Kay?
I think equally important, but very different.
So is that a yes, no, maybe?
Why does everything? Not everything is a yes and no. What?
That is a yes or no question.
Equally important, right?
Are men and women equal? That is definitely a yes or no question. Or I don't know.
Kay didn't answer it with a yes or a no, but she answered it correctly. Because there's two parts to it.
We don't know if it's correct.
There's one part. Well, it's not anyone's place to say what's correct. If she's giving her answer.
You just said it's correct, so it wasn't your place to say it's correct.
Sorry, I meant it's no one's place to say that she's incorrect. If that's her answer, my opinion is that she's correct. There's two elements to
my
answering the
opinion
question.
is that I want a yes or no. So okay.
Okay. If I had to say,
don't
just based on what equal means,
it's a trap.
I'm thinking of. Yeah, I know. And
it's not a trap. Wait, Paul. Why do you all think it's not a trap? It is nothing I'm doing is a trap. Everything is very obvious. You guys saw my outline.
You're a lawyer. When they're when they're cross-examining, it's not that obvious, okay?
So if there had to be an answer that was yes or no, I would say already what I just said, but like if I had to, I would say no, because if we're looking at like equal being exactly the same, then I mean, that would be the answer. But I definitely think men and women are equally important, but very different from each other.
Patty?
I think men and women are equal. Yeah.
Oh, period. I already said what? I don't remember. You said no, women are more valuable. All right.
I think that I think it comes down to equity. And that's
So-
why it's the question, like almost nothing in life is about equality. Most things come down to equity. What does a person have to offer? How important is what they have to offer? How well do they do something? And then that's sort of how you quantify things.
All right, that's fine. Let's read some super chat, cool down, and get back into it.
Sean Flossie, 1999. Anna previously said that people without kids cannot tell people with kids how to parent, but a person who has never fought in a war can lead a war. Are these comparable topics?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Although at times parenting feels like a war under your roof, again, being a parent is not. It's not the same skill set.
No. That's not the question being asked.
I know it's being asked.
All right.
And I still said that again. Having it comes down to having a skill set or learning a skill set. A person who is leading or guiding or giving orders, they've learned that skill set over the course of time. I don't even know how they get to the commander role. Obviously, they've done a lot of like training and education, blah, blah, blah. Parenting is something that you have to, you understand how to do it once you become it. So it's not the same life path. It's not the same journey. It's not the same challenges. It's something that once you do it, that's when your journey starts and you begin to learn how to do what you need to do, what works, what doesn't work, what's right, what's not right.
Gotcha.
And then for this question, and for that question to make sense, it would have like being a part of the military or fighting in a war would have to be a requirement to become president. Like
that too. Thank you.
There are lots of people who never fought in a war that were president. So,
and a lot of people have a lot of good advice on children who have never been parents.
Yeah. Plenty of pediatricians have no children.
I mean, I think it's a false equivalency, but I just want, like, my thing is, let me be clear. Everyone does what they want to do. You don't have to listen to me, but I think being indignant does not help when we grapple with questions. It blocks us from really thinking deeply, and we stay surface level and we dismiss questions that might have meaningful answers that everyone can learn from. Now, not every question should be leaned into, but I do think that being indignant can stop us from like really meaningful discussion.
I will try to not be indignant.
Gia Holman, 999. Commander-in-chief is just one function of the president, one function that the president serves as chief. He or she is also chief diplomat / state, etc. To disqualify women based on one aspect of the presidency is an unholistic view.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with this.
Mm-hmm. 2Ls.
He was starting to say.
Yeah. 2Ls, $5. I'm against drafting, full stop. Women can be commander-in-chief, but I think she will be seen as a greater national security threat.
Wait, come again. Can you read that again? Because I might have misheard. I'm against drafting, full stop. Women can be commander-in-chief, but I think she will be seen as a greater national security threat. Wait, what? 2Ls. What? I'm going to need you to come explain this when we drop the link, because I'm confusion. Can someone take a screenshot of this so I don't forget it?
Yeah.
All right, we have some more.
You
got it?
Mm-hmm.
Black women today, $5. I don't get the women have the babies, so shouldn't go to war argument. Unless you're going to force women to have babies, what's the relevance?
The relevance is that men don't have the option to have babies whatsoever. It doesn't matter how much they try. It doesn't matter how much they pray. It doesn't matter how much they pop a plea. It doesn't matter how much they cry in the bandit sphere. It'll never happen.
Cannon Hill, hey Cannon, $4.99. Do you have to be subject to draft to qualify for commander position? Is it a requirement generally? That's what I was saying. Like, you don't have to. You can be beyond the 8. Look at the president.
No. So the issue wasn't about qualification and requirement. It's about a moral judgment you all were making, or
Yeah.
like a judgment generally, and I wanted to test that judgment.
Mia, $5. My other concern with women getting drafted is that we all know it's going to disproportionately impact Black women and women of lower socioeconomic status. That's true.
When they don't have a doctor's note to say they have bone spurs.
Bone spurs. Cynthia G, $5. I agree with Anna. Women are more valuable to humanity because there is no humanity without women.
You know, it's a good day when the OG triple agrees with you.
Is there humanity without men?
How? Or sorry, is there humanity? I was thinking moralistically. Is there humanity without men? I mean, we don't need that many.
That's not my question. You better sidestep. You better dodge.
Is there humanity without men? I don't know. Maybe nature will find a way. I don't know. Parthenogenesis. Who knows? Who knows?
That's why I said equally important. But yeah. Twisted Integrity, 1999. Men and women are not equal. I think the issue is how men have set things up, leaves women at a disadvantage. Therefore, they want to be equal because of the treatment they receive due to their position.
Thank you, Twisted Integrity.
Not according to the Bible written by men. I'm sorry. Who wrote that Bible?
All right. So, y'all, we were at the place, God, it was divinely inspired. I don't know what y'all are talking about, but my Bible was definitely written by divinely inspired. So I don't know what else. I am not here to argue with anyone about my Bible.
Praise
Not today.
Jesus. I'm not.
Stop.
Listen, whoever loves Jesus, put your hands in the air.
Me,
It's your
stop.
sermon.
Don't
That's
do it.
fine. But this
I
is
will
not
be
about God.
arguing with
This is
I
not
will be
about Jesus.
arguing with apologists soon, but for now, that is that on that. All right. So you all believe women, except Petty. Petty believes that men and women are equal.
No, he doesn't. But okay.
You don't think he does? Why you say that?
Because he has an undercurrent of misogyny flowing through his veins. So fundamentally, he believes that men are better than women.
Well, that's untrue.
We talked about misogyny. I'm sorry, rewind the tape.
So
I'm
the
sorry.
question,
We talked about misogyny just last episode.
so maybe I wasn't understanding the question well regarding why a president wouldn't be able to, or should a woman president be able to be in that position above male soldiers if they don't have that requirement. My understanding of the question was that the draft, I assume you would consider president a position of privilege, and a person who's expected to be drafted would be considered a position of disprivilege. So if it's a detriment that men experience that women don't, would it be fair for that gender to be in a position of privilege over that other gender, or no? I misinterpreted.
You did not misinterpret it, but there is a way to reframe that. Not from you. That's not your work. The question you ask is a good one, but the response can be reframed.
I had a response. I think it would be different from Kay's and Anna's.
Well, one, it's not, well, yeah, but your question being reframed, it would be, it's not a position of privilege, it's a position of service. But go ahead.
So you were speaking about, do you feel like we have some sort of obligation to continue society and thus keep women at the home? I said no. I think everyone else said yes. Under that type of guideline, I think the best argument would be, even though the men have an obligation to defend society with war, women are still kind of have the obligation to continue society with their bodies. So in that way, maybe they're equal, even though those are different. Obviously, they would still have detriments that they have to give for the sake of having an obligation to continue society. That would be my best faith interpretation of maybe what Kay and Anna were trying to say.
Do it again.
So if we're thinking about this and everyone believes we have an obligation to continue society, you can argue that the men through the draft have an obligation to defend society and the women through pregnancy have an obligation to continue birthing society. Even though those things are different, they're still, I would consider both of those things detrimental.
Define obligation.
Well, let me Google.
When you say women have an obligation to have children, what does that mean?
You asked the question, your word wasn't obligation, but you asked about continuing. Do I care if society continues? If you do care that society continues, I assume you think that that's something we should be morally bound to.
I don't know if it's morally bound. I won't put a moral judgment on it, but if we believe that there is a purpose, one of said purpose might be, and we could agree or disagree on this, is to continue the population.
Okay. I mean, I assume you would say that women are not legally or any type of bound to actually continuing society, even though you would be legally bound to being drafted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but every man's not going to be drafted, just like every woman's not going to have kids.
And every woman can choose to get into the draft as they can choose to either have or not have children. But a man would not be able to choose not to be drafted. So I'm not talking about my question. I'm talking about Petty's parallel. One of them seems way more optional than the other.
Okay. I think the other argument I would make would have to do with women, again, being subjugated in society. So us ideally making a society where women are less burdened, I think.
All right, so let's skip to it then. Should a man pay 100%, take on 100% of the finances, since women are subjugated in society, Petty?
Nope. I definitely separate my personal relationships from societal issues generally.
I'm not talking about you personally. I'm talking about a general prescription. Should men, in the way women are subjugated, should men take on 100% of the finances in a relationship?
No.
Why not?
I actually believe this would probably further subjugation in society for you to treat them disproportionately.
How?
So if I think about this, since you're saying broadly as society, not just an individual, external to your relationship with that man, I think if this is adopted broadly in society, it'll probably reinforce outdated gender roles that harm women. It'll probably reinforce the idea that
what gender roles?
That a woman's place is in the home and a man's
No one said that.
That a man should provide 100%?
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to stay home. In fact, I would argue that if he's paying 100%, you probably should have your own money still.
So what does the woman's money do in this scenario?
The woman's money is hers and your money is theirs.
Is it a relationship or are we married?
Married.
Well, I think that's fine because I would consider both of our incomes each other. So even if
you are married, but you're not in a community property state.
I don't understand the law around that. I'm not familiar.
It just means if you have separate account, you can actually, and you can also have a prenup. Should the man take on 100%?
Still no.
So your first argument wasn't that it wasn't to protect women. Then go ahead. So remove the protecting women.
Broadly in society, I generally think people should separate their obligation in a relationship from what they do.
That's fine, but the first argument you made that it would protect women is irrelevant. Why should it be? Why should men not pay 100%?
I think number one, it's not feasible for most relationships. I don't think.
All right, so we're gonna mark men on a curve. Got it? Because they can't afford it.
It's not feasible for most relationships. It seems like people can barely survive on 2 incomes, so I can't imagine just one. I think number 2.
If you can barely survive on 2, should you be having children?
Probably not. No, I'm waiting for your debate on that. By the way.
No.
I think it also sets women up to be in a vulnerable position in the relationship. Now, the caveat to that, you said the woman should still be out working.
I didn't say out working. I said she should have her own money.
And it just magically appear, or
It could be however she get it. She could
However
be a
she gets
child
it,
wife content creator online.
that seems unlikely to me. I think most realistically, you'll be 100% relying on the man to pay the bills, which means if you leave or divorce,
No. You don't get to remake the scenario.
The scenario is she has her own money from wherever, not from a job. It just it came, it saw it hit her right dead in the jaw.
An allowance of $500,000 a year
From her man.
I'm just
I don't think the man's contribution in this case would matter at all, actually, in a situation like that.
Why would she have a man with that kind of bread? For what?
You didn't hear allowance?
Allowance from who?
Oh,
Him?
so it's another man. I provide 100% in the
Set
other.
this hypothetical up properly, please.
Yes. Let me.
Okay, should men pay 100%?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think that if we're just talking about regular relationships today, usually both partners are working, so they both contribute in some way. Should they pay 100%
prescribed?
If that's what they agree to in their dynamic? I mean, I don't think it's like one of those everyone should do the same thing situations, because it really depends on what both people are comfortable with. Some women, want to contribute to the household financially, some don't. And I think that that's okay based on, and you need to figure out who you're going to be with that is on the same page as you. But I wouldn't say blanket, like across the board, that's going to work for everybody.
All right. I emailed you, but I sent link on IG just in case. All right. I will check my IG and the email. Thank you so much. I need my link to Discord. There is some instructions if you're at the Discord level. Annalicia, should men pay 100%?
It's going to depend on a lot of variables. For me, I think that if he has it, most men don't. So this question is a little bit like unicorns and, butterflies. But if he has it and they are in a position to give it, and it is not going to, it's not going to lead to some sort of financial abuse, and it's not going to preclude his other responsibilities as a mate or hypothetical father or whatever it is, then yeah, like whatever makes your boat float, do your thing. Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Should men get a family if he is not able to be 100% responsible for the finances?
Hell, you better go play with some like Barbies or go get some toys, get some teddy bears and pretend that you're a father. You're not. No, get a turtle.
All right, wait. How do you respond to this, Kay?
So I do think that a man should be able to cover the finances, because you just never know what's going to happen.
But I feel like these are the same questions.
What?
So you don't think a man should pay 100%?
Across, like my answer from earlier, I don't think that it should be a rule for everyone across the board, because that's not going to work for everybody.
But those men should not have family then.
See, but it's not about whether or not they can or can't.
I'm saying should.
I'm saying it's not about whether or not they can. Okay, let's say.
No. By the way, I know they aren't the same questions. Like, I get that they aren't. But the implication in the first about whether or not a man should pay 100% bleeds into the very next question. So if your answer to this is no, if your answer to this is yes, but your answer is no, it's not necessarily a disconnect, but I would like an explanation.
I can explain. So let's say we're married and we don't have kids. All right. Or who's paying the bills? We both have jobs, let's say making $100K, both of us. We could figure out whatever needs to work to get the bills paid, right? Maybe one person pays all the bills, the other person kind of works on savings and investments, whatever works for them. Or maybe they both pay equally, whatever. But when it comes to having children, I do think that the man should be in a position It would be best to be in a position where you can take over that financial aspect if the woman is out of work for a certain amount of time, because you never know what's going to happen in terms of a pregnancy, in terms of the child. You don't know. You just never know. So like,
So
say
they should be able to, but they shouldn't have to.
they should be able to, but they might not have to.
But would you make them do it? Not you. Like, Anna, how will you respond to this? Like, how do you reconcile this? You said absolutely they should be able to take on 100% responsibility for the finances for family, but they don't have to pay 100%. How do you think through those two questions?
The way that I'm looking at Cynthia's question is if he's not in a position to do something, he shouldn't attempt to do it. So when I look at creating...
But he's gonna attempt to do it. And if he attempt to do it, my question is a prescription on society from your perspective. Should men pay 100%? The answer to that you said is no. They shouldn't have to. Right? No.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I didn't say no. I said that there are variables that it would have to depend on, and those are important variables that when you really get into like the meat and potatoes of it, you can't ignore.
What do the ones mean?
I don't know. The ones mean, who knows? Variables matter. Like there are things that come with men who pay 100% of the bills. Those are variables that need to be considered in any hypothetical. And if a person is okay with what comes with men who tend to pay all of the bills, listen, if you like it, I love it.
And then
there's asking you to create your perfect world. And not perfect, but if you could tell women to date and not date certain men, would you think it would be better for a community if the men pay 100%?
Yeah.
All
right.
Oh no.
See, but then the thing is, when we start thinking about these types of scenarios, then I start thinking, so would that, in this hypothetical, would that mean that...
Go ahead, sorry.
Would that mean that women aren't allowed to have children unless they are married to a man who can pay? Like, so
women can do whatever they want, but I'm saying if you could like wave your wand and make women do something that you think would better, like say the
okay, so just only in terms of the man aspect. This wouldn't affect women at all. Okay.
Make all those women who have men that pay 100% of the finance put a 1 in the chat. Yeah, but no, I don't. I saw the ones. Let me not do that. I don't want to out people. That's if
what were the ones for?
Their man pays 100%.
Oh,
all right. How much? Wait, Prince Brady, how should a man who cannot afford to take on 100% of the responsibility of a family have a family? I think you already answered this.
Should he? Should he be able to? Yeah. Should he? Probably not.
All right. So how much should a man pay, Petty? Finances, how much?
I'm going to give it a cool 50%.
All right.
A cool 50.
Go ahead, Annalicia. Thanks, Sinji.
So this is a relationship, no kids, just man, woman?
Man, woman, and children.
Oh, you need to pay... I'm not going to say what I'm used to or what I do or what I've done, but like 80 or 90.
Okay.
Whatever works for them. It's really hard for me to answer this because it really depends on the people. Mm-hmm. And
like,
what financial obligations do they have? What other, like, because bills aren't the only thing that exists when you're running a household, or especially if you have kids. Like, there are just so many
financial. Anytime money comes up, we're gonna put all the money together. And how much of that, what % of that do you think men should pay in our society?
So in an ideal world, right?
In our current society.
But in the world that we are constructing,
The
that
only
we
thing
think
you're
is
changing in
ideal.
this world, the only thing you're changing in this world is how much they're paying.
I don't.
Percentage?
Yeah, what percent of the finance should the man pay?
Yeah, I really think that depends on what works for the individual people.
But if you could set a standard,
Like what? Like if there had to be a baseline, what would
Yeah.
you suggest the baseline be? I would say, like, what if we set it proportion to income? Like, what if she has a little business, online business, and she makes like,
Did you just say a little?
She did.
and
Oh.
she makes like 30, 40 a year or something like that, hypothetically. What if we say it's proportion to income? So let's say he makes like 250. I mean, how would you then?
Let's say they make one make 100,000, the other make 100,000.
Oh God, no.
They both make 100,000. What should the man pay?
This is with kids, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
My answer's still the same. It's still the same. Like, maybe it really just depends on what works for those people. It really does. And then think about
we gave you a fake family. We're literally giving you a fake family where the man and woman are husband and wife with one child living in DC. Both of them make $100,000.
It's not a lot in DC.
I guess it just doesn't matter, like, how it's split up in that way. If you're married, like,
no, but they could be divorced and they're going to have separate properties after the divorce.
You said they're about to get divorced?
No, they could, and they're probably going to in the next 5 years, stats. So, yeah.
99.9999999K. Just say 99.
Even if the man like paid all the bills and the woman like invested and saved, or the man paid for the kids' tuition and the woman, like, it all is going to the same effort.
But Kate,
to be fair, you will have separate bank accounts. If you divorce, you don't pay alimony, you don't pay anything, you don't even pay child support. You will just move back and forth with the child. How much should the man pay and the woman pay?
Wait a minute, he doesn't pay child support? Why?
All else equal. No, because it's going to live with you both, and y'all make the same amount.
If in a hypothetical, like, there were two people making the same amount of money and one person could cover all the bills, then I would just say go ahead and cover all the bills, and then the other person can pay for the other things.
Yeah, but
yeah, how much should the man pay?
That's not a lot of money in DC. I just want you to 100,000, 200,000. Sorry, in DC, that's not the best.
How much should the man pay? Okay. What percent? I want an answer.
See, because I asked you, and I know people are like, why can't she ever answer a question? But I asked if it was about the bills, and I think you said it was like finances in general.
Yeah, put all of the money together, and what percent of that money should she pay and he pay?
So if all, okay, I have an answer. I have one. You looked proud, Themis. So I would say figure out what percentage of all the finances are bills, and then the man can pay those, and then the other finances, then the woman can pay.
So you can judge in your mind, I need a percentage, because you're trying not to give a percent.
She's smart. I like.
But how can I know?
She's dodging like the Matrix.
If all expenses are, I don't know, however much, what, 50, let's say $5,500 a month, which maybe there would be more, but whatever, let's just start there.
With one kid?
More. I don't know.
Do you think 50-50?
Not necessarily. It really depends. I don't know.
Just say 99.
You just say. I gave my answer. You can have your answer.
All right.
Look at
Cool.
Petty. The Themis isn't gonna let it go. Like he's
All right,
not gonna
I will.
stop.
No, I will let it go. I'll go back to Petty. Why you say 50-50 finance, Petty?
I assume everything will be split equally as far as childcare and household.
Do you
chores
carry the
go.
child? You carry the child 50% of the time?
During the time where the woman is pregnant and for the year after for breastfeeding, I think it would be appropriate for the man to assume 100% of the financial responsibility here, or at least give his wife the option for him to assume that if she doesn't
So
want
not 50-50.
50-50 until that specific 2-year period. Outside of that, 50-50.
What if the toll it takes on her is more than 2 years?
For the appropriate, however long the toll is, it depends on what the toll you're talking about is. Like, I assume recovery back to some sort of normalcy, right?
No, there will never be any more normalcy.
So, like, she's crippled, she can no longer move.
Nope, she is going through post-P, and yeah, that's going to be forever.
So, I mean, this is a hard answer. Well, I'll answer with a question. Do you think someone should be financially responsible for their partner if they're suffering from an extremely long period of
Yes, I think you should be responsible for your partner, period.
for
But
years
that's
and
neither here.
years and years?
I think if you can provide 100%, you probably shouldn't be in a relationship, but that's neither here nor there.
I disagree there.
Oh, I
but
mean, that's fine.
I'm going to stick with my original answer.
All right. So now, now we open the panel and everyone gets dragged. Wait, Anna, I think you wanted to say something. Let's read some super chat.
Ill Doctrine 499. I think a man should be able and willing to provide 100%. What they actually do depends on the input from both parties. That's what I'm saying.
Ill Doctrine, thank you.
I agree with that. Brooklyn, $2. Women's unpaid labor is being ignored.
I mean, I didn't realize everyone was into struggle love, so period.
Cynthia G, $5. It doesn't make sense for a woman to have to bear children and be responsible for providing for them if she has a man.
Period.
Look at Petty's face. Look at Petty's
Yeah,
face.
period. I don't. Not in a patriarchy. Y'all can fight the patriarchy. Well, let me wait. Let me wait till people come up so we can drag.
Giggles, $10. Do the ones mind sharing what their spouse does for a living? Because I'm nosy.
But also where they live, right? Like I know some people who survive on one spouse's or one partner's income, but that's because their the cost of living is dirt cheap.
Well, thank you, Giggles.
Gia Home at $9.99. Can Themis give the ones have their own live stream to put us on game? These bills are eating me alive.
We're talking about Sprinkle. Shira, she already has all of that covered. You guys already know where to find Shorty.
Thank you, Gia. The ones can come up and tell us. Men should be able to afford the household he created. All right. For everyone who says a man should pay 100%, please hit the link. So y'all are for struggle love.
Who is y'all? What do you? Yo, listen, man.
No.
First of all, I don't struggle. I will not.
And it doesn't mean that it's struggle love if you're just paying for things that need to be paid for, and you understand that y'all have the same goals, the same bills, the same everything in the same household.
So y'all just want to put in work. Got it. I love that for y'all.
I don't know who lied to you, but families are work. Like back-breaking work.
Yeah, and are men gonna be doing that part of the work too? They need to. ABC, go ahead.
Oh, wait.
All right, I'll put you in the back then. Before we continue, then.
Themis, I have a question for you.
Let me ask this first. If a man pays 100%, should that man come home and take care of the children?
Yes.
Petty.
And that's why the question is, it's like a difficult question. No, exactly.
Right.
So you're saying no, right?
He shouldn't be a father because he's.
Yeah, let's get into it. How
does that make sense?
he still needs to build a relationship with his kids and be there for them and take care of them.
No, because you know what, guys, we had this conversation, Petty and I don't understand how you can justify a man not engaging with his children, not fostering and facilitating a relationship with his children because he pays bills.
Let me separate it then. Should he?
You can't separate it. If you are a father,
should he? Probably. Should he have to? No, I don't think so.
Okay. Should he be obligated? Wait. All right. The question then: should a man who is obligated to pay 100% also be obligated to take care of their children when they come home?
Yes.
Take care of their children.
Listen, I want people to understand something.
Take care of their children.
I don't care what percentage of the bills you are paying. If you have a child, none of that will preclude, none of that will negate your responsibilities. Your responsibilities to your child is independent of everything. Whether you had a kid or whether you, let me finish. Because whether you had a child or you didn't have a child, you'd be paying bills. You decided to be a father, to be a parent, and that is independent.
Don't you have outside of like that part of parenting, the more personal part, don't you also have a financial obligation to your child generally?
Yeah, but that's not all parenting.
Wait, so yes, you do have a financial obligation.
You have many obligations.
Wait.
Financial is one part.
Outside of the personal part, you agree. You do have a financial responsibility to your child. Yes
in addition to an emotional responsibility.
Yes or no to the question. Do you have a financial
I already answered it
to your child outside of the emotional and the personal part? Yes or no? And then
yes.
Okay, yes. I believe the financial obligation is equal to those parts. You don't.
I don't either.
I'm sorry. So a child being financially taken care of is more important than a child being emotionally taken care of?
If my child doesn't eat for 3 days,
have you seen the research?
If they don't drink water for 3 days, I think they die. It's probably important that I pay the water bill.
And if a child doesn't have a good relationship with their father, or if there's actually a study, and it's called the unfathered brain. It actually leads to like brain developmental delays in children.
Could I ask for clarification? Is there a study around what happens to a child that doesn't eat or drink water past like 10 days?
Okay, but
do they turn out like good or bad?
So wait. Let's do this. Patty is saying that there are two aspects, right? There's the like physical, emotional care, but that is coupled with the financial care. And he's saying if you're providing the finances, all of it, then the other party should provide all of the like physical, emotional care, right? You're saying that is not okay, both K and I don't know. Can you guys explain why?
Because children need to have a relationship with their father.
All right, so the father in this case
plays an important role on their development and their psyche.
Wait. Are you saying these are equal? Like the finance and then the raising bit, are they equal?
Equal in terms of what?
Necessity for the child.
I think the emotional piece is more important.
No, but which one is more laborious?
The emotional piece.
All right. So can the man decide, oh, I want to be the stay-at-home dad, and the woman provide the easier getting the finances?
Can the man and woman decide what their familial...
Can they just switch? Because if you think like being at home and taking care of the child is the harder thing to do, and you believe that?
100,000%, yeah. The emotional investment in a child is... It is.
So if a man is like, if a man says, I want to be a stay-at-home dad because I want to do the harder labor and I don't want to provide financially, the woman should go out and provide it financially. And if they want to create a relationship, they can, but they can go out and provide all the money. They can come home and form that bond if they want, but I want to do the harder thing. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's whatever makes you both float. But at the end of the day, she still has to come home and engage with her children. She still has to be a mother. The finances, the finances don't make you a parent.
I mean, so if Petty wants, he just finds a woman who will do that.
Yeah, and then you just raise children who are going to resent you and have psychological and emotional problems and be,
No. Find a woman who is willing to go work and come home and help with the children, because if you think it's the harder thing, then he can stay at home and do the harder thing, and she can go out and
men
work.
wouldn't. So it is what it is.
Why?
Because it's hard, because men, first of all, the emotional capacity that a person needs in order to raise children and all of their sort of the chaos that entails, it's reflexive, it's a muscle, it's a skill, and you have to develop that emotional capacity over time. The reason that men are bad in relationships is the same reason that they don't want to stay at home with their kids. They don't.
I can send this child to school, the child comes home, give them the food and send them to bed. I can do that. It doesn't mean, it could mean I'm a terrible person, but I could do that.
Right. At what age?
At whatever age they start going to school. Send
6?
them to school. When they come home,
and before that, what about before that? What about in some of the most developmentally important years? What about those years? Then what do you do?
Most of my friends got sent to boarding school, but to
boarding school for an infant? Where?
No, you're talking about. I'm not saying that it's not important. What I'm saying is, which one would most people choose?
The path of least resistance.
And you think that path is raising a child, not working. You didn't even qualify the kind of work. And it does seem odd that we just, without any qualification of the kind of job, deem the raising of the children as the harder thing. And I think that is taken de facto. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but without any kind of qualification to the kind of job, it does seem odd that we just automatically says it is the harder thing.
I think that it is harder because when you are a parent and when all of your time is when you're responsible for a human being and all of your time it goes into that person, you don't get breaks, you don't get to negotiate with them, you don't get to step away for a second.
You don't have to go into that.
No. Well, there are certain periods, certain times in their life when you do. From 0 to 5.
Even to concede that it's not for all of their life. It's not even for most of their life.
That's true. But if a person is, how can I explain this? Even if the most difficult part of parenting doesn't happen for most of the child's life, it's still it's a constant. The job is constant.
There's no
time off. Yeah, there's no time off. There's no vacation. There's no and
you don't think there are jobs where there are no time off? It's high anxiety. People might die if you mess up. You don't like. What I'm trying to get people to say is add nuance and say maybe most jobs isn't as hard as raising a child, but we can conceive of some jobs that are harder than raising a child.
Themis, I get where you're going because just thinking about the workload, right? Just comparing how much work there is. But I think the thing that makes it harder is the vested interest in your own child. I think most people love their child more than their job, regardless of what their job is. And
I don't agree with this.
I think most, maybe not all, but I think most people
maybe most women.
Yeah, maybe. So I think that that's where the difference comes in. So
what do you mean you can quit your job? You can quit being a parent too.
Right. So let's look at the outcomes of quitting a job versus the outcome of quitting your job as a parent. What happens to a company when you quit your job? They have to hire someone. They have to go through a whole process. Now, what happens to that child? If you're the
owner of that company and you don't have a lot of employee, then it falls apart in the same way. If you're a parent and you quit,
no, it's not the same way. What? Wait a minute. I'm sorry. You think that the psychological ramifications or the ramifications in general, you think that it's
No, I
parallel?
never said that. No one
So
said
what
that.
are
I
you
don't know what you're
saying?
talking about.
So what are you saying?
Well,
You're saying that if
if you
somebody
let
owns
me
a
finish a
company.
statement, maybe you
Okay.
can get what I'm saying.
Okay.
You are saying if you quit your job, there is someone else to step in, correct? Is that no? All right, we can move on then.
I thought K was K. That was who are you asking?
I think that was for you, Anna.
Oh yeah. Ask again.
You were saying if you quit your job, there would be someone there to step in. The company doesn't fall apart.
No, and I'm pretty sure that there's like insurance for that. Yeah, there's like all kinds of, yeah. Someone.
Do you understand my question?
Yeah, the answer is if someone quits their job, they can hire somebody else. Is that your question?
All right. Now, the reason that is because that person and that job has replacement in it. There is, we don't call it a community, but there is a workforce.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, if you leave your child and you have family who will step in, the child might be raised in a better place, because if a person is willing to leave their child, maybe they weren't the best person to raise the child in the first place. Correct?
It's possible, but not likely.
What's
more likely is that they're going to fall into the system.
The possibility,
right? But what's more likely? A child being abandoned and falling through the cracks of the foster care system or whatever it is, and a person quitting their job or whatever it is, and the company falling apart. And what's more likely? You can literally look at the numbers.
But the possibility exists.
Yeah, that's right, literally.
But the possibility is greater in one scenario versus the other.
That doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. The possibility exists. That's all I'm saying.
So because the possibility exists, that's the parallel that you're drawing between a child and a business. Because the possibility exists, so therefore it's the same.
Yes, logically it's consistent. You can draw an emotion all you want. The chat, all the mothers in the chat can be as mad as they want. The issue isn't that. The issue remains that it reasonably follows. So unless you're going to come up with a better argument, then yes, that is what I am saying.
Themis, which jobs, like if you had to name a few jobs that are harder than raising a child, what would you say they were, just so I can have like some framework around what that looks like?
I don't even have to go that far. I think teaching one of the most disrespected job, and teaching at particular grade level is one of the hardest jobs you can do, particularly as it directly relates to children. That is one important job. But if we're thinking about even something we were talking about, certain kinds of soldiers in the middle of a war that is fighting and literally running from bullets, I would dare to say that there are certain times when being a soldier is harder than raising a child. And I don't I'm thinking about emotions, and I'm trying to make space for an emotion where I can understand why someone would say, how dare you talk down on being a parent? I am not. But the idea that we're sitting here and just automatically assuming that being a parent is harder than every single job does not make sense to me.
I get why
qualified. I'm not going to apologize for that.
I get
it doesn't make sense to you logically, but that's not okay.
I think that it's because you're looking at it in a different way than, because the thing that makes a kid different from a job, like I said earlier, has to do with how you feel about your children or your child versus how you feel about your job.
So is that a feeling, Kay? Is that emotional capacity, Kay?
I'm saying, like, even if
No,
if
A lot
someone,
of kids
if
grow
you
up
go past,
well. A lot of kids grow up and are well adjusted, where their parents weren't even very invested in them.
most of
They
them
were
don't. Most of
most.
them don't.
We're
Majority of them
talking
don't.
about possibilities. So not being a parent is not as difficult as every single job. There
That
are
you are
some jobs.
parenting. That you are parenting.
No, that you're parenting in the way that you're imagining parenting, maybe, but you don't get to dictate what parenting is for everyone.
But that's what I'm talking about parenting. I'm not talking about the label. I'm saying
Yeah,
actively
but
parenting.
you don't get to define that for everyone, Anna.
But if you are, however a person wants to define it, but if they are actively parenting, it's still going to be more difficult than any job.
No, it's not.
Okay.
If I define parenting as providing food, clothing, and shelter and give my child one kiss at night, that is not that difficult
Right,
to do.
because that's what parenting is. You see,
No,
okay,
you
this
don't
is
get
the
to define
problem.
it. That's what I'm telling you. You are trying to define parenting.
Hold on. Because, okay, when you're trying to say this is the differentiation, and you're talking about the way that parents feel about their children versus the way that a parent feels when they wake up and go to work every single day, that's probably the single most important variable that's exactly. But
that's the differentiate. That's the thing, because I get what
guys
these
keep
like.
saying that is parenting, that is not parenting. You do not get to define parenting for other people. You don't. As much as you might want to, as much as you might say parenting is good and parenting is bad, you do not get to define what is parenting for people, particularly people who might not have the time and or energy to invest in parenting the way you might see parenting for yourself and other people. So no, you don't get to say that is parenting or that is not parenting.
If we put parenting and then like a job as like a list of tasks to be done, right? I see what you're saying, Themis, in terms of like there might be some tasks in a job that are harder than the tasks that might be on the list that come with parenting. Like, I get where you're going with that in terms of looking at it like in a vacuum, like no other variables, no feelings, no emotion. But generally, that's not how it is when we're talking about parents and children. That's just not it. Now, sometimes, like you said, there are parents who may care about their job a lot more than their kids, who might, have different feelings or actions towards their children. Like, that does exist. And I get that you're wanting to speak to that specifically, like the more so, I don't even want to say exception.
Disconnected. More disconnected parents.
The people who also exist but might not be the majority. And I think that's where
that is exactly the point, though.
Yeah.
That parenting is different for everyone means that you can define parenting in a way that does not make it the most difficult job in the world. Or you can define it in a way that makes it the most difficult job in the world. That definition is not the one where it's the most difficult job in the world.
Isn't
everyone's definition. Therefore, you can't just say parenting is harder than every job in the world. Like, you can't do that. That is inaccurate.
Themis, would you say being a good parent is harder than most jobs?
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay. So tell me that's
no, we don't agree, Anna. We do not agree.
No. But that's when I think of parenting, I think of good parenting. I don't.
Yeah, but even good parenting, I would not say is harder than every job.
Okay, well, I would. So that's the end of
that.
Yeah,
so that's what I said. We don't agree.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree. We can keep it moving.
And how are we defining harder than? Like the stress that you feel, physical?
Well, that's the whole point. Everyone is doing this emotionally, where people are saying, oh, it's harder without defining. If I define it specifically my way in terms of harder, it probably is about physically more challenging. And I'm sure a lot of people in the chat might say emotionally more challenging, but we're using two very different metrics, and I'm not about to sit here and correct it because someone's feeling is hurt about that. No, that's inaccurate.
So just generally, I'm just interested. Themis, would you rather suffer the worst physical pain you've ever had or the worst emotional pain you've ever had?
That's
I
a
don't
really
know.
good one. Good job, Kay.
I don't know. I think I could deal
No,
with
don't pull a K. You have to answer.
No. I'm answering. I think I would probably prefer the most emotional, the toughest sort of emotional pain. The
You would
physical
prefer
pain the physical pain would probably kill me.
no, not in this hypothetical.
Yeah, hypothetically, you're gonna live either way. Would you
How
rather
quick
have
will they
No,
dissipate?
well, they'll take a toll on you the way that pain either way does, but you'll live.
Which one will be the longest?
That's which one do you think?
I mean, I'm assuming
Don't answer the question for him, Kay. Don't do the work for him.
I think I'm assuming you're thinking that I'm going to be emotionally scarred for life if it's the most emotional pain, but that doesn't directly correlate, because while I can agree that if the emotional pain is going to damage me and keep me for a long time, where the physical pain will come and disappear, then I would take the physical pain. But physical pain tend to not just happen in a vacuum. There's usually emotional pain with the physical pain, particularly if the physical pain is due to something emotional. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I'm climbing up a tree and I fall, there is going to be physical pain, but also an emotional reaction about me being dumb or whatever.
So I understand like adding context. I'm not mad at it at all.
Yeah, but so I will take the physical, the one that will last the shortest time.
What if they're both gonna last for the rest of your life?
Emotional.
Okay, so you would rather have the emotional one if it's long lasting, physical if it's short?
If it's shorter than the physical pain.
Wow. Damn. I would. Wow. That's interesting.
Okay. Would it depend for you, Anna?
No, I'll take. Listen, I'll take the physical pain. I think that I would be able. I could recover from physical pain. I think more readily than I could emotional pain. And the same thing applies for emotional pain. Emotional pain causes physical pain and clinical side effects as well. So, but emotional is long lasting. Listen, that's psychology. I don't even have to, like, that's literally like the brain is just not set up to manage psychological pain for long periods of time. That's why trauma has such a profound impact on the brain. It's the profound effect that the emotional scarring or emotional abuse has on a brain. Our brains they're not set up for that. So I would take, punch me in the throat. I'll fall from a build. Yeah, give me the physical pain and I'll heal and manage. The emotional pain, no thanks.
I'm gonna take emotion. I have a therapist. My body's weak and frail. I can't handle anything physical.
This is why women bring humans into the world. This is why.
Wait, so never mind. Let me not ask that question. McKinney from the block said, "Remember when we were younger and had to parent the fake baby as had to what?
The fake baby, like in school."
Yeah, I would drop it, destroy it. It was a mess. I never did it right.
No, my brain caught up when I was reading. I was like, wait, what?
The act of producing life would probably get a better argument for being one of the hardest things to do in the world.
Mia, question for Petty. So your requirement for the woman you end up with is that she'll be able to afford 50% of the bills. Do you disclose that during dating? I feel like it's concerning if the woman I'm dating can't afford 100% of the bills, because how was she living before I moved, before I was involved in the life? So yeah, I do disclose that. Ill Doctrine, $4.99. There's a couple who can do the stay home dad thing work. It's grammar. They could even bring the fam to the barbecue, but he ain't hanging out with the grill. I'm just saying. Not gendered expectations. This toxic masculinity, I don't like it. Curry up and eat, $4.99. Men keep saying the parenting is easier. They've been fighting for custody only to win and cry about it.
To say it's easier, it's probably easier than what most people do. So Kay would be right, but I don't think it is. I don't agree that every type of parenting, even if we say good parenting, is harder than every type of job. That is, I don't understand how that's not just an obviously emotional response.
How is that an emotional?
Well,
What
the
percentage
emotion
of
is the
parenting
difference.
do you think is
I mean,
emotional?
you brought
What
up
percentage of good parenting do you guys think is emotional?
well,
And what percentage do you think is like practical,
I mean,
logical, financial?
Anna and Themis,
Parenting is emotional.
Y'all cannot agree on this because the differentiating factor is
Is
the
the
emotion.
emotional capacity, right?
And-
But he
and
thinks you
it's-
can gloss over it. Kate, you can't. It's inextricably connected to being a good parent. Having the emotional capacity is just as important as having the financial capacity. It's just as is like you. I don't know how you
so they're
can't.
equal.
It's as important.
Okay. Kenny from the block says, "Remember when we were young?" Oh, we already read this one. Who succeeded versus failed that experiment? Let's bring that back. Y'all can't bring back something I've never heard of because.
Listen, I've seen people in high school who couldn't manage eggs. Okay, they were breaking the eggs on the first day, so forget about it.
Gia Homed, $9.99. Thank you. Nah, shout out to all the nuclear physicists and nuclear reactor inspectors managing our nuclear materials in the U.S. They're watching over us. Well, they didn't send their child to school for 8 hours a day, so I don't feel like their work is that complicated or hard. But thank you for the super chat.
You got, you know what?
I mean,
imagine someone deactivating bombs.
Yeah,
Y'all talking about some emotional pain. Y'all play too much.
But can he deactivate a temper tantrum? Anyway, I mean, you mentioned. Never mind. Let me not feed the Themis is wrong. How can you speak on it with no kids?
Apparently, that's the qualification. You need to have children before you can speak about children.
Yep.
But it sounds like you don't have kids.
That means a lot of black men are qualified.
It doesn't have to sound like that. I don't have kids.
No, but that's the point, right? Like so much, such a huge part of parenting, like good parenting, involved parenting, engaging parenting. So much of that is emotional, and the fact that you think that that's either easy or easier than what's required in most jobs.
Easier than what? Easier than what?
Than whatever's required in any job.
Diffusing bombs.
Yeah. So you think it's more mentally upsetting? It takes up more mental energy to
raise a child, absolutely.
Raise a child than to deactivate a bomb.
I'm gonna say yes.
Period.
Okay. Giggles. If I had to guess, being a pilot for a major commercial airline is a harder job than being a parent. Maybe. Pilots are responsible for hundreds of lives daily. Pilots have to keep it together physically and mentally at all times. That's interesting. I would have said so. The soldier caught me off guard because my go-to would be maybe like a doctor or a lawyer. But the idea that it's well documented how mentally taxing it is being a soldier, especially when you're fighting overseas. So it's not.
People are like, I hope you have a lot of children. I plan to be the best parent I can be. I don't care if I'm a good parent or not. I'm going to just be the best I can be because that's all I got.
Getting lucky in Kentucky. Because I was old as dirt having my first child, I was in the hospital from 3 months until delivery.
Delivery, I don't know if I said this, but I wouldn't even attempt to talk about bringing life in. I thought I said this, bringing life into the world would be a much bigger conversation where I wouldn't even engage at all because I don't even know. Like someone said, it's the closest thing to death you can go. A woman gets without dying a lot of the times. So that would not be a part of the conversation at all because I wouldn't even try.
But maybe part of that is why parents feel or tend to argue so vociferously about what it means to parent.
Because they can argue all they want, but they'd be wrong. So
no, they'd be right because it's based on their experience and how the child gets into the world in the first place.
Yeah. But you can bring a child into the world and not be a parent. So bringing a child into the world does
right. And I'm not talking about those
exactly. So I'm
parents.
separating
I'm talking
parenting
about good parents.
That's all I'm
talking about.
So I am separating, and the discussion was not about bringing children into the world. It was about
know.
parenting.
No,
So
I know.
my stand still is that you have jobs that are more physically harder and mentally more challenging than raising a child. And anyone who is mad about that can be mad. That is just a
No
fact.
one's
And
mad. People
it is a
just
fact.
disagree. It's not about being angry. I disagree. We agreed to disagree a long time ago, and we can keep it moving.
Cannon
Yeah.
Hill, 199. Hey, Cannon, again. There's no training for parenting, many variables.
Right. And it's a lot of unknown variables, and that's the scary part of parenting, right? It's encountering things that you don't know you're going to encounter.
Wait,
Whereas
feel
at
like,
work, most things you're already set up and trained and educated to deal with. Parenting is not like that.
that feels like a non-factor to me. I feel like there is training for parenting, even though there are many variables. The same way that there's training for the military, even though there might be a surprise attack or something you're not trained for, prepared for. That doesn't mean the training for it doesn't exist.
Right, but practice and theory are not the same. They're two different things.
I mean, I could say that for parenting.
That's literally what I'm saying. When you become a parent and you are actively parenting,
when you go overseas and there are IEDs,
then you overstand and you know what time it is. You know what time it is. If you are actively and engagingly parenting, you know what time it is, and you know that all the books that you've read up to that point were not that beneficial. They weren't that helpful.
I mean, that's true for like most jobs, where like the theory is very different than in practice.
Man, you mentioned teaching earlier.
Yeah, like you can.
I would say it might be true for most jobs where there is a psycho-emotional component. I guess like if you have to manage people, like on an emotional or psychological level, yes. But a lot of jobs actually, like I'm thinking finances, a lot of jobs, it's you're really set up, you're primed to get there and do what you need to do. And even and again, because the stakes are not as high as having to raise a well-adjusted, happy, emotionally sound human being, the stakes are so much more high when you're dealing with human life. Whereas at work, you can afford to make some mistakes. You can afford to do those things.
Literally being a heart surgeon, for example.
Well, I'm not saying that surgeons and doctors, I'm not saying that that's not difficult, but there's part of the reason. I read a study about surgeons and doctors. A lot of them don't apply any emotion into their practice for this exact reason. They only apply logic. They try to be as objective as they can, and they take out the emotional component. So it's still not the same.
All right.
I don't know what to tell you.
You can quit parenting like a job. You definitely can. And if the Black community is any indication, a lot of people quit parenting, men. So you can definitely quit.
Mia, I just asked Alexa what's the hardest job in the world. She said Alaskan crab fisherman or cell tower climber. So y'all all wrong.
Period.
Ooh, let me read this. Cynthia G. There are no jobs that are harder than parenting because all jobs have a clock out time.
That is not
parenting
true.
Does not. It is difficult. It is continuous.
Can we just all
it
agree
is never ending.
There are jobs that you don't clock out of? Like,
no, I'm a veteran for the Army. It's actually when we're over fighting the Taliban after 5 o'clock. There's like this ceasefire. We all go home.
This is just. I mean, Finn, love you. This is factually inaccurate.
Cynthia, you're right, and so am I. And we know why.
This is right. You're saying the comment here is right.
I've already said it to you, Themis. I think that parenting is the hardest job in the world.
No. I did not ask you about parenting. I'm asking you.
No. But I specifically said why earlier, and it had to do with what's in the comment. I did say that there's no clock out. I did say that there's no break time.
There are jobs you can clock out of, correct?
Of course. Bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry. Miss Tiff, $2. I'm a therapist. No kids. Teach parenting class. Lois, sorry, $2. Can you call your mom and ask her opinion on this?
Who, me? I
How you
will.
know?
I will. She will. I promise you, she will. My mom, you know how there are people who are like, I sacrifice everything for my child. I loved my mom so much for this because I did take up too much space in her life. But she will tell you that she did not sacrifice her life to raise me. She lived her best life and enjoyed her life and loved me just the same. And I'm happy for that because I grew up not feeling guilty that I took.
Held your mom back or
Yeah.
something.
But
Yeah.
period. My mom I was in Jamaica with my grandma. My mom was in the UK. I was in the UK. My mom was in the US. Like we were just all over the world. And I love every moment for that.
Shout out to Cynthia. Also, hit the link, Cynthia, because can't do it.
Can you call your mom and ask her? Should I call my? No, she's gonna be annoyed with me. Let me call her. Like y'all, click the comments, Betty, and they'll read it. And let me call my mom. I'm gonna ask her her answer before I put her on here.
Go ahead.
Twisted Integrity 999. The biggest thing I see with parenting versus financial is the man clocks in and out. If the mom clocked in and out, the child would die. Parenting is all the time. Work is some of the time.
Also, Cynthia, please hit the link because clearly, Kay and I are shaking it rough. Just in terms of, I'm just at the point where it's like, okay, you know what? We'll agree to disagree, but I hope this doesn't come up.
Because, well, are there callers?
You listen, okay?
Moshe Willow, $10. I'm a child-free woman who helps with raising family members' children. Seeing my friends do it is scary to me, but I don't think it's the hardest job. Neurosurgeon, engineers, Alaskan crab fishers are.
So when people talk about like doctors being responsible for human lives, it's not the same thing as being responsible for a human life that you create or that you are connected to. It's not the same thing. I understand that.
Wait. Oh, she answered. Wait a second. All right. Hello, mother.
Hey, how are you?
I'm live, and I want you. Let's see. Is parenting the hardest job in the world?
No, it is not. I think that parenting is not just your mother; it's a community, right? So if you have people to support you, no, it's not. I think soldiers dying in a war is harder than.
Sorry. All right. I love you. Wait. I love you so much. Thank you. I'm glad that wait, did you feel like you gave up your life for me? I'm kidding, you don't answer.
No, I think I supported you in whatever decisions you wanted to make.
Period.
You and your brother. When people say, "Oh, your boys did so good," I said, "No, they did."
Oh wait, all right. No. Love you.
All right, bye.
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 So the caveat is if they have the familial support, which is a huge caveat, by the way. That's a huge variable.
And taking out, like, y'all are never going to agree. And I understand, like, I'm not even going to try to argue with Themis about this because I understand if you're taking out the emotional part, how something can be harder than the day-to-day activities of things you have to do to be a parent. So, like, I get that, but, like, for most people, I don't think you can take that emotional part out. So that's why it's harder for a lot of people.
Cindy and I are going to debate this, and we need a host, a moderator.
I'll do it.
No, you're biased. What do you mean?
I'm biased.
I can do it. I am always in the middle.
Yeah,
you're not in the middle with this one. She's not in the middle with this one. Kay,
but I do understand both sides, though. I
understand. No, it's not that I don't. I conceptually and theoretically, I understand his position. I vehemently disagree with it, but principally and fundamentally and realistically, the idea that someone had even his mom saying, if you have family, even that caveat, I don't think you guys are putting as much weight as you should be putting on that caveat.
See, Annalisa, this is why you can't moderate.
Yep.
Okay, but
You
this is
couldn't
why.
even-
But okay, fine. Okay, fine. You know what? That's fine. I'm not gonna moderate. But listen, Cynthia, you know that I love you. So do your thing, kid. Do
All
your
right.
thing.
So Cynthia and I will debate. If she can do it next Wednesday for the podcast, then you all can just be we should do it Friday or a podcast.
Wait, she's not gonna come up right now. Oh my god.
No, not today. All right, we'll set it up. I would like to do it on a podcast since it's a podcast topic.
Yep, that's fine with me.
No, that's mean. All right.
I think that's interesting, though. That's interesting.
We read that one.
That says a lot.
Oh, y'all read all of these?
Nope.
No, we didn't read this one.
We didn't read this one. Cynthia G, $5. Actually, that proves the point. When a man abandons his child, the woman has to pick up the slack and she cannot clock out.
She can clock out too and give him to the
fire department.
Anyone can do anything in life. Anybody, we can do anything that we want, but that we want to be good parents. It is going to be the hardest job in the world.
I am very excited for this. Cindy and I will fight this one out.
You're gonna have to accept the L on this. Preemptively accept the L.
See, that's why you can't moderate.
Well, it is what it is.
Oop. Someone has to do the parenting regardless.
Right.
The government.
That's what happened to you?
Alicia says parenting consists of multiple jobs: psychologist, doctor, chef, negotiator, mediator, etc. It never ends. Your emotions are also involved. I feel like that is facetious. I couldn't have a child and go into the office and apply for a job and anybody take me seriously. I think that
right,
is
but that is part of what good parenting entails. Are all of those are encompassed by all of those things. That's the problem. When you go to a job, your professional purview is maybe one or two things. You know what's required of you. You understand what your job entails. You understand those things are already laid out for you. When you're a parent, one day actually every day, realistically, you're going to be teaching. One day you might have your doctor hat on. The other, you might be a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
I think
this conversation it's so disingenuous.
Question. Did we review all the super chats?
Nope.
Please stop diminishing the work of parents do. I'm not.
He's not. He's conflating the role of parents and the role of the village.
DJ Shire says parents isn't sending the kids to Nana's house an example of y'all clocking out. Oops.
Right.
My Walk with Nature, $10. He can't have an opinion on parenting. Topics on the podcast talk about marriage and other topics most panelists have not experienced. Why not speak on it?
Period. Come through with a $10 super chat. My Walk with Nature.
People can speak on anything, but we can also be wrong. Right?
Miss $5. I do wish we didn't refer to parenting as a job. Children aren't employees. LOL. Joy and spiritual calling are involved here. Moshe Willow, $5. Doctors get burnout, alert fatigue, compassion fatigue, etc.
So do parents. What? So do good parents. I'm sorry.
Twisted integrity, $4.99. But isn't the support the father coming home and helping?
Again, these are caveats, right?
Was that the last one?
Super chat.
All right. The Sanderson sister, go ahead. You have 30 seconds.
What?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, there was a bit of a delay. Sorry.
You're fine.
So first of all, before I get into my scenario, I have to say I do agree with Annalisa and Kay. Sorry, Themis, but
No, you're fine. No, that's fine.
I mean, my mom always said, parenting is the hardest job. You can read all the books and self-help books, like nothing prepares you. And, I can say the job I work in, the training isn't that far from what actually happens on a day-to-day. Like, yeah, there are hiccups, but it's pretty much linear versus parenting. Like, you never know if you have maybe a kid with a disability or kid with some sort of chronic illness or mental health issues and that's the extreme. That's, the regular stuff is just as hard. But anyway, So back to the earlier discussion you guys were having. I have a
You do
scenario.
realize putting the anomaly in doesn't actually change the argument, right?
Also,
What
asthma
do you mean?
occurs in like 1 out of like 5 or 3 kids. Like
So,
asthma is actually
like,
very prevalent.
that some people, some parent, even if I concede, which I wouldn't, that there are some parenting for certain kinds of like children that is harder than every other job in the world. It doesn't mean itself that parenting is harder than every job in the world.
But the thing is, like, for example, you guys were talking about like soldiers who have to fight for and die in the war, and you know they never clock out. But the thing is, like, there are more mothers on the planet than soldiers. So theoretically, like, wouldn't that make parenting the hardest job if you think about it that way?
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, this comment made me happy.
Like, so you guys had mentioned soldiers, right? Like, that's an example of someone who can't clock out. But because there are more active mothers in the world and more active parents, period, in the world, wouldn't that make that a harder job just because of the number of people? You know what I mean?
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Like, there are more mothers in the world who are taking care of their kids and active and have to do that from the age of when they're born to 18 and past that, versus soldiers who are like dying in wars. You know what I mean?
But what does like the more or less have to do with the difficulty?
Yeah.
I'm just saying that that's a factor. Like, I feel like you can't compare like parenting to like someone being a soldier, because they're just
one is
that's not something that
disposable.
everyone does.
Are you saying one is disposable and the other is not? Like functionally disposable. Like one is going to go off and they might not come back, whereas the parent doesn't,
So
shouldn't do that because they
are we
have to take
treating
care of their kids.
the type of like the amount of work that is involved in parenting as if it's the same throughout the child's life?
No, it changes. It changes
throughout our life. Even our work, and nothing is the same. Everything in life changes.
That the investment decreases or increases over time.
It fluctuates. Like it fluctuates.
Yeah,
that's all I'll say.
People think that as they get older, it gets better, but then depending on the kind of parent you are, are you going to help them with their, with their first house? If they have a wedding, how much are you going to contribute to that?
Exactly.
How much are you going to help with their children? What kind of grandparent are you like? It's ongoing, ever present, never ending, always changing, always transitioning. So from one role to another, like I don't understand, like this, like binary, rigid, like yes, no, black, white.
That sounds very neurotic, but that's neither here nor there.
That's not neurotic. That's parenting. So if parenting sounds neurotic to you, then don't do it.
I can choose when to do it and when to not do it, and I'm choosing currently to not do it.
Okay, right, because it's right. So if it's neurotic, it's neurotic.
Go ahead, Sanderson sisters.
Okay, so I have a scenario regarding y'all's like the first conversation you were having. So I don't know if anyone here is a Real Housewives fan, but Real Housewives of New Jersey just ended their season or whatever.
I'm gonna do a thing on that, Sanderson sisters, by the way.
Okay, period. But so you see how the Aiden family, right? So you see how Bill and Jen, I guess their main conflict this season was literally about what you guys were talking about, how like he's a surgeon. So he does like he's like a plastic surgeon. And she is a stay-at-home wife, but also there's a cultural element because they're both Turkish, and in their culture,
very
that's expected. Well, yes, also that, but it's also is expected for him to be traditional in that way and for her to be traditional in that way. So their whole conflict was, Bill, you're not really being as active with the kids. You're not being active with me. When you come home, you're in the pool house and for hours, and then you come into the house and then you finally talk to your kids after hours. But then his argument was, I'm a plastic surgeon. That's an extremely stressful job. It's stressful. Like the act of like working on someone's face or body or whatever is stressful. So I would be curious, like with a scenario like that, where it's not even just the fact that the kids are having that missing from their life, but then the fact that the wife is also telling you, I'm missing you from my life and you need to be more active with your kids and with me. And also he did cheat on her while she was pregnant. So there's that. But anyway.
Can I just say that when you're in a marriage and you have a family, the way that I sort of measure the sort of the collective, the engagement or how happy everyone is sort of predicated on the kids, right? So if the kids are saying that, if they're happy, if they're well adjusted.
What happened?
I don't know. It wasn't me. But if the kids are saying to their dad, we don't really see you, dad, we don't really engage with you, we don't really have a relationship, or we don't really connect with you, and it's affecting us, that's the point at which something needs to be done to remedy that. And that's the point at which I would say there's definitely a problem in the dynamic.
You're really gonna hate the answer to this question, Finn. There are no laws right now that forces you into any profession, unless it's a draft, but period. There are laws that force women to be parents. There are 0 laws that forces a woman to be a parent. There is no law. There is
Roe versus
no
Wade,
law.
I think she's thinking
There
of.
is,
well, but you can still give the baby up for adoption, drop them off at the fire department.
There is 0 law. Being a parent is harder. Nope. And that didn't prove it either, but we can fight about it.
I don't understand this idea of like parents. So this, NK, you could tell me what you think, because I don't understand the idea of parents thinking that their children like ruined their life, or impeded their ability to like live out this life, or go down a path that they would have otherwise gone down. I don't see parenting that way. I never have, and I never will. So you like the idea that parent, like that you get older, like I can't even, I had a really adversarial and turbulent upbringing, and even still, because I understand the trauma and I understand the adversity, I would never say to my mom, like, or I don't even think like, mom, like you ruined my life, or you made my life difficult, like I don't like, so that conceptually for me is separate, is a separate thing from parenting. I don't understand that, and I think that that's a little problematic, that way of thinking, in my opinion, because I don't understand a parent saying, you know what, like I had to give my entire life up for you. You stopped me from doing this or that. Like, what?
That's privilege.
That's abusive. That's abusive. I think that's abusive.
Unfortunately, there are parents who definitely feel that way. So,
right, but that I think that it's a form of abuse, of emotional abuse. But whatever.
That's definitely privilege. Definitely conservative. Rich.
How is that? I'm telling you that I grew up in poverty. Not that that's my situation, or that my family understands anything about my upbringing, but my upbringing was garbaggio, and I still don't have that. I still don't have that perspective. I never have. I never will.
Wait. Oh, so you don't understand the kids hating the parents, or the parents hating the kids?
The parents hating the kids.
I do. Especially if you take my whole life away. I completely understand.
I was dropped off. No, that's bad. Someone reminded me that I call children parasites. Finn says, when babies are born, someone is required to parent them. So again, parenting is harder. I mean, I can't wait for our debate, because I'm very curious as to where people are like, oh, your argument doesn't make any sense. Because you don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't make sense, but maybe it doesn't.
Well, it's just the stakes in terms of like emotional stakes are higher for a parent that cares about their kid. Let's put it that way. Now, if we're talking about which one am I going to be more tired after doing, like a physical job that requires a lot of manual labor, or like reading the kids a bedtime story, like I don't think that's really where the comparison here is. I think the comparison between the two are just two totally different things that cannot really be compared, and that's why like the people who are like,
I agree with you, but if we create a standard for how we measure difficulty, then we could do that. Even if you say it's not just physical, because I'm assuming everyone here would concede that physically raising a child is not harder than a lot of jobs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
Anna,
more so the
Anna,
mental and emotional. I think it's more so the
I
mental and
think we
emotional side.
agree on this, but Anna, would you agree that physically raising a child is not harder than other jobs?
Physically raising a child means like making sure that they have shelter, food.
Everything outside of like the mental thing, assuming like if you have a man providing finances, I guess. I don't know.
No, I'm still gonna say no. Sorry.
Okay, see, so Kay.
Yeah, see, I'm saying I understand.
No. I'm gonna ask the question again. Is physically raising a child the hardest job in the world?
Oh, I don't think so.
All right.
Physically raising, maybe physically birthing.
I'm sorry. What does that mean? Can we define physically raising a child? What does that mean?
That's the
Doing
thing.
things
Like
for the child.
the
Everything
things that you
you
have
do
to
for
do
the child.
for the child, is it physically harder than like another job that may also require lots of physical labor? See, but then that goes back to when I asked you about the emotional versus physical pain thing.
Well, we don't have to do it because apparently Anna thinks physically raising a child is harder too. So even in my on the standard where you think I would win easily and we wouldn't have to be fighting, Anna would say it is physically harder.
I think it. So if we're going, if sleep is attributed to a physical element or is some type of physicality, then sleep deprivation, that would be a physical. That's a physical element of parenting.
Too, yeah.
Okay, so then I'm going to say this again. I'm going to poke my chest out and I'm going to have 10 toes down when I say it. Parenting, good parenting, engage parenting, physically, mentally, emotionally, and psychologically is the hardest thing to do in the world. That's it.
So physically.
Themis, she just said. You're like, let me be clear. So physically, yeah, she definitely.
You can ask yourself the question again, but it's already been answered. I don't know. Like, listen. Let me give you an epidural, and we'll see how easy you think it is. Let me put a needle in your spine.
Wait, why would I need it? Why does anyone need an epidural?
No, I'm just saying it's. I'm just giving. I'm giving a very small example. Like I don't know. What jobs are more difficult than parenting?
I can get with the parenting being a more difficult job, just like I said and have been saying, because of the emotional and mental like aspect of it. But physically, like that one, I'm not like, and I'm not talking about birthing a child. I'm talking about the day-to-day things that you do to parent a child.
I don't want people to be like, oh, parenting is difficult, and there is a lot of adversity involved, but it's
wait, Anna, do you think I believe parenting is not difficult?
I don't think that you think that. No.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I was about to say, all of us agree that parenting is difficult. I think Demas is just like saying that there are more difficult things that can be done.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Kay, and then I'm going to be done with this. When it comes to the stakes, like when it comes to what's at risk, right? Like the potentiality for harm or for good or for bad, whatever it is. What do you think? What's higher or greater?
A soldier failing his job and the whole country is destroyed.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen. That doesn't really happen. So, but what do you think is harder, right? Like a person working and whatever stakes that.
No, Anna, you don't even have to ask me that, because that was my argument from the beginning. Like the reason that people would say that parenting is harder is because of those mental and emotional stakes that are there. But
when do they leave, Kay? When do the stakes ever leave? Do they leave when they go off to college? Do they leave when they get married and have kids?
But Themis is removing that from the argument because not everyone has that same feeling about parenting. So if you take that part out, I think that's where his argument is coming in. Just generally in terms of the argument we've been having. So I think that's where like the disconnect is when we're talking about this, because it's two totally different things. They cannot be compared. So like they can be
compared because we just did physically. Like,
No,
I would
but
agree with
mental and
you.
emotional aspect is the
Oh yeah,
difference
that is
between-
harder to quantify, and
Yeah.
I thought that's what we were debating, which I would still agree with my position, but I didn't
And I would agree
realize
with
we
mine,
were
yeah.
having a fight about which, like, physically
Yeah, that
harder.
one I wouldn't fight. I wouldn't fight about that one because I mean, you know, physically outside of like the actually like giving birth, like outside of the giving birth part.
The thing is, there are studies that literally substantiate what I'm saying. There are like literally that jobs render less stress for an individual than parenting does.
And that's the thing though, but Themis
all elements, all variables included.
But I think that Themis understands that. I think he's just saying that there are people that exist that do not feel stressed out by parenting because they're not doing certain things, or maybe they're not thinking about it the same way, or maybe they're not even taking care of their kids the
And
same
it doesn't mean that they are not good parents.
That's debatable.
Because it's only debatable if you're going to define what a good parent is for every single person. And that's unfair.
Different. Yeah, it looks different depending on who.
But listen, that's why I'm saying it's debatable. It's like, I don't know. There's a lot of like, I grew up in a, like, my situation was mush up. So I understand what bad parenting looks like and is, but I'm still like, I don't know. Like, a lot of people don't have faith in people. I don't know.
Yeah, there are so many things that can be said to determine. Like, people have so many different opinions about what a good parent is that we can't even.
Yep.
I mean, you know, there's just so much that can be said. I think there are certain things that we can all agree on, but it still looks so different from person to person in terms of opinion.
I think that there are psychological parameters and emotional parameters.
If my mom was, or my mom or dad was neurotic and like over me and like watching me and like, I think I would become a much different person. I probably wouldn't. I don't know if I would be a better or worse person, but in my mind, I would hate that person. Like, I would hate the person that I become if my mom and dad was just like over me, like, oh my God.
That's not, I don't think that that's what I'm describing. I don't think that that's what Kay's describing, but I think that there are emotional and psychological parameters that we can refer to, that the data also can refer to, that points to good parenting. So, and all of them include parents being active, engaged, and involved, particularly emotionally. So there is a baseline.
Patty,
there's definitely
can you give me one job that is harder, do you think, than being a parent?
Physically, soldier. Mentally, also soldier.
All right, that's I would agree. Depending on what the soldier is doing, because
but depending on what the parent's doing, it could be a harder, easier job. I mean, Kenny from the block. Children are a blessing, but it's a mindset just like marriage. Why would you appreciate it if you don't understand it?
I agree with this. I agree. I don't like people the way that I read some of these comments. You guys are looking at it like it's a death sentence. Like, it's really not. I guess for everyone, it's not for everyone. It's not.
Well, Anna, this is the thing. On one hand, if somebody's like, you know, parenting is just great, it's beautiful. But then on the other hand, it's like, it's the hardest job in the world. It's the most taxing thing you can ever do. Now, don't get me wrong, because I get where you're coming from. But when people like market parenting as like the hardest, most taxing, most physically exhausting and strenuous thing you could possibly do, of course, some people are going to look at it like it's some kind of task that they don't necessarily want to.
But okay, so can I say something then to that point?
Take up too much of my life. Go ahead, sorry, Anna.
No, can I say something to that point, Kay? Because I don't want people to conflate two things that I don't think that I'm saying, or I'm not trying to say. Because when I think about parenting or being a parent, and again, I'm defining it as like a good parent. I think that and hold on, because I said it to. Are there any more super chats, by the way?
No, here's the last. I think this is the last one.
V Smith 199.
So
you need to send me the link.
Yeah, V. She should come up here. My thing is, I think that people part of the human condition is adversity. Like it's inevitable. We are going to experience adversity, and adversity can either be debilitating, or it can foster and facilitate growth, and we can evolve and we can change for the better. I don't want people to conflate adversity with like the worst things in the world. Parenting involves a lot of adversity, but depending on how you approach the adversity and how you see it, whether you see it as something that can cultivate growth, or something that is going to kind of break and destabilize you, that's typically the way that's going to be your approach to life in general. And that's also going to be the way that you see parenting, and that's going to be the way that you see your kids. You either see your children as a barrier or a detriment, or as a challenge you will never be able to manage, or you see them as a part of your journey to learn, to love, to live, to give, and it's symbiotic. You learn from them and they learn from you.
That's interesting. I never knew that you could look at parenting as like a positive or a negative like that. I don't think you can look at war that way. That's why I think soldiers are kind of harder. They don't like. There was never a way I could spin to be like, oh, being a soldier, sure, it's like it's tough sometimes, but you have to reframe it to like you're getting shot at, but like look at how fast you're running. You're breaking a PR. Or
no, well, Petty, some people do say like, you know, they're proud and they're glad to be fighting for their country and all this and that. Like, people definitely have like some positive experiences about war.
And you know why, Kay? Because part of that, it's part of their identity, and it's part of what they carve out for themselves. It's their purpose. In the same way that some parents or some people who have children, they believe and they feel that it's their purpose, and that's why they take it so seriously, or that's why the stakes are substantially higher than anything else that they've encountered in their lives. So
Princess Stan, go ahead. You're muted if you're trying to talk. Oh, go ahead.
So, okay, I guess the point that I was kind of stuck on was the argument about emotional versus finances. I just think it's kind of strange to say that emotional is more important than just basic human survival. Like, I think it's obvious that we would need to be fed and not starve and all that before we have the emotional. And I think it's like, I don't know how many people on the panel believe in gender roles at all. Well, I know not Petty, but I think that both of the traditional roles should be respected. They're like one person is doing one part, the other person is doing the other part. And together it's making this thing work. I guess the last thing is like, I think that just women, we can kind of get, I don't know, it becomes a weird argument to be like, parenting is a job, or even being a housewife is a job, and it's harder in all these ways. And it's like, you don't have to make it a job for it to be important. Like, it just is important, and you find the man that values it, and you don't have to like prove to men that it is important. I don't know, because I feel like it gets in a weird space when it's like, oh, we're like doctors and surgeons and blah, blah, blah. It's like, but you're not. Being a housewife or a stay-at-home mom, it varies. Sometimes it's very busy. Sometimes it's very light. Sometimes you do get to take a long nap. Sometimes you feel like you're cooking all day. So it's like, it varies, and it just feels false to be like, no, it's this very hard job. Like, I don't know. So that was my little take.
Period. Thank you.
That's something ebbs and flows doesn't negate how challenging or difficult it is.
Thank you. Because some people was in the comments like, soldiers don't get shot at all the time.
I'm sorry. We're kind of moving into a more technologically savvy world and environment. So like men's bodies are not really going to be as useful as they once were.
Well, I was just pushing against the argument of people saying, you know, being a mom is so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. Like, it's not always hard. You're not always.
Nothing is always hard, though. What is always hard?
That's the point.
But I never said that it's always hard. I said that it never ends. I never said it's always hard. I said that it never ends. I also didn't say that it's a death sentence. I said that there's more positives than there are negatives. I just said that it it never ends. That's what I said. It changes, it ebbs and flows. There are ups and downs, but it's ever present, ever present.
Okay. So are you sticking by the argument that emotional is more important than finances?
Yes.
Okay.
You do realize you can't live. All right. Thank you, Princess
Thanks, yeah.
Period. I'm not even gonna get it. Was it Debian?
Debian.
Oh, Debian, what a one.
Hi, everyone.
I come for drag me now.
No. I'm actually on your side with this.
Yes, drag them then. Go ahead.
Be a triple.
You'll have your day in court when Cynthia gets here. Don't worry.
I am maybe a quadruple unicorn. I served in the military. I was a stay-at-home mom for some part, and now I work full-time. And out of all those jobs, parenting for me personally is the easiest. Maybe I have.
We have a parent. So now y'all can't tell me I'm not a parent. Look at y'all. Look at your faces. Go ahead. Sorry.
And it could be my pregnancy very difficult. I was on bed rest, followed by a whole team. Had a cesarean. Was in the hospital for days. He had some medical issues. He now has ear infections all the time, which he has to go see the doctor quite often. And I also work in the medical field. And when I tell you, when I'm going to work, I am so much more stressed out because I do not know what I'm going to get. If someone's going to hit me, try to fight me, their family member's going to yell at me, the medication, the doctor yell. So to me, when I get home, I literally sit in my car, I decompress, and I go in, he's home, and it's the best time of my whole day. It's just being with tantrum or not, issue, not him not want to do his homework or not. It's always a blessing to me. And like I think the lady before me said, it's a mindset. If you do not have that mind where you look at your child as a blessing, and of course he gets on my nerves, and I do be dropping him off at my mother's, don't get me wrong, because sometimes mommy needs a nice hot bath and a glass of wine and a book. But at the same time, it's the way you approach things. And if you approach parenting, I feel like as a job, it becomes a job. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
I would, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And yeah. I think that...
And you keep saying good parents.
Can I answer?
Maybe that's part of it as well. Like, I'm not trying to be out here saying people are bad parents, or it might just be their situation that they might be in that's also adding to it. But like, I don't want to say it's easy raising a child because there are different parts to it, but it could be the situation too that's adding to the stress of making it hard to raise a child. It could be financial, it could be not having the support, it can be, you know what I'm saying?
Conversely, for some people who feel like the heat is being taken off of them, conversely, it could be that they have a lot of support. It could be that they have a lot of help. It could be that they have more opportunities to drop those kids off. And that also changes not only the way that they see parenting and the way that they engage with parenting, that also changes how difficult parenting was for them.
Yes, I agree with both of you ladies. You're both 100% correct. But I've done both. And let me tell you, being a stay-at-home mom, not having to work and having great family support makes being a stay-at-home mom so beautiful, right? And then I'm also married to a military husband, and us relocating, and then we're by ourselves. Yes. And then he gets deployed. Yes. And then you're by yourself, and it doesn't seem as fun. So I can 100% say being a stay-at-home mom with your family and all your support is beautiful. It is nothing like it. Nothing. It is so easy. And you're teaching your child the best. Seriously. My daughter started reading at 3 years old, y'all. Being a stay-at-home mom with good family support is super the way it should be.
I wouldn't say easy. I would never use the word easy, but period.
But period, because
But
it
is
is
that
a job.
is that the
It's a lot
average
of work.
experience?
But
Do
what I'm
most people
saying
have
is
that degree of support?
But what I'm saying is move away and you're not in the same state, and then your husband gets deployed. And then you're in a state by yourself with 2 children, not 1, now 2.
Yeah.
It
I
gets
think like
super hard.
yeah.
I think that people only look at it from the one perspective, right? From the one side.
So I would say that if we're talking about a mother who has the ability to drop her children off, I would say that that's that's sort of a deviation from what I'm talking about with respect to parenting, because that's more shared. Like I don't know if
but you know, if you have the
that would be that would be different for
grandchildren,
me.
you won't even have the option. You will have your siblings telling you, I want to come get her. I'm going to pick her up. You know, and you're like, no, we're going here. No, I'm going to bring her here. You know? So
I know, but does
in the beginning it's easy.
But
it's
not
real
everybody
easy.
has that option. Like not everybody has the familial support and those that kind of scaffolding around them to make to take some of the burden of parenting or some of the challenges, the dread of good parenting, to take some of that off of their shoulders. Most people don't have that kind of support.
So
And
there are
even
types of parenting situation that is harder.
Yeah.
There are
And
different
then
layers to
and
it.
that
Because if you're a parent who's even a single parent, but great family support and great, huge family support, is much. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's much easier, right? But you can be a married mother with a husband who's in the military, who's deployed, and you can feel like a single mother.
yes.
I promise you, it is possible. It's very a lot of women I know felt like that. I felt like that at one time. What I'm saying is different. You know, it's not all equal. That's all I'm trying to say. That's the only reason why I came up to say, yes, everybody is correct so far, but each situation can be different.
I think that was Themis's like original point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I to piggyback on that, just saying it's the hardest job, I just can't agree with that personally. Like I said, like you said, Annalicia, it depends if people have the support and have the backing behind them. And for me personally, my mom is there at times where I can drop him off, or she'll be like, hey, like, where's my grandson? Bring him over. And then there's times where she isn't available and I have to shoulder it on my own. And right now his father actually is deployed. We co-parent, but he's deployed, and he's going to be with me for a whole year without seeing his father. So that support right now is not there. But still, at the end of the day, I find it more physically and emotionally taxing to my job versus.
So and again, so I can recognize that there are different approaches to parenting. I've already recognized that there are variables that change the way that we look at parenting, even the way that we feel about parenting. But in general, and studies have already there's already data to substantiate it. The work that goes into parenting, it exceeds the work. It far exceeds the work that goes into paid work. And there are studies that substantiate that, and that's I will say that until I'm blue in the face. I don't really care. The parenting is it's I'm not going to play semantics. It is a job. If we're going to look at it objectively, it's a job. You just don't get paid monetarily. You get paid it. There are other ways that you are fulfilled and paid and compensated, in my opinion. Well, no, not really, but whatever. I just think that the approach that we have towards parenting is not the same approach that we have towards our paid jobs. And I think the work that we put into those two distinct areas in our life are very different, and the stakes are different. And for me, parenting is the differences in parenting make it more difficult, make it harder for me. And the fact that it is a constant, you could be an 89-year-old parent and you're damn well retired from your job, you're getting your pension, but you're still going to be a parent.
So Patty, the stakes make it harder. In that case, for higher, if I can find a place where there are higher stakes, would that be harder?
Yeah, I assume so, if you're logically consistent.
Would you agree with that then, Anna?
Like what? I would need an example.
No. I just want to ask, because I want the principle of your argument is that the stakes in parenting is high. So, and that's why it's the hardest. Thus, if I can find a job where the stakes are higher, then that would be harder.
The stakes would never be higher because whatever the person.
No, don't fight it.
I'm going to say no. No, I'm going to say no. The reason that the stakes are high is because that's your child. That's your blood. That's you're connected in it. You are forever connected to the life that you created and brought into the world. You're responsible for that. And that emotional component is
cannot be higher than your own child.
No, there's nothing. No.
What about your child and then other children?
What about them?
Wouldn't the stakes be higher there? Because it's not just you have your child to care for, right? But then everyone else in the country. Isn't the stakes higher in that situation?
I don't want to get into philosophy again.
No. It's not philosophy. It's a direct question. So if me caring for my child, the stakes is high, adding one more person that I care for makes the stakes higher.
The stakes are high because they're part of you. They're an extension of you.
Yeah, but you don't lose that, so the stakes are still high. Now you also have other people. Isn't the stakes higher? It's not just you're going to lose your child now.
If I'm not,
you're going to lose all the other people.
If I'm not connected, if I'm not related to them, if I didn't bring them into this world, then the stakes are not as high.
No, but you brought your child. Your child is not removed from the stakes. So if you're saying having my child and caring for my child, make sure, for example, my child stays alive, the stakes are high, but also having my child care for my child and also the rest of the country. I'm talking about a soldier, by the way. The stakes are higher because if you're not just fighting for your child, which you are, you're also fighting for a lot of other people. Isn't the stakes higher there?
Oh, I see what you're saying, Themis. Okay.
I'm still going to say no because yeah.
But he's saying because your child is included in the people that would be affected. So now it's your child being affected and also the rest of the country hypothetically.
But first of all, I'm not going to fight the hypothetical, but everyone's existence is based on one individual soldier. I thought is it not a collective? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, but you are fighting on behalf and for. So if the stakes for you being a parent is to take care of your child and make sure they're okay, that you fail does not mean your child is going to fail. Though the likelihood is there and the probability might be higher. It doesn't matter. That's not what I was testing. I was testing to see if you were operating in good faith. And while you might be, I don't think you are. Because I think you're just going to double down.
No. I'm operating in good faith, and I disagree. I'm not sure.
Can I?
Like,
if you are putting something as the stakes are higher, and I'm asking if the stakes are high, thus it is important. If the stakes are higher, then it should follow that it is more important, just like from like a logical consistency. If the touchstone
I know, Themis. I understand the question. I know.
Like if your child is also at risk with the other people that would also be at risk based on what you do, are the stakes higher? Themis, I get it. And I would say that they are higher because, I mean, obviously your kid is there and other people are there.
I understand what he's saying. I understand. I would say that the stakes would be the same. I wouldn't say that they're higher.
Okay, but I will say as of September 11th, right? So since that happened with the World Trade, and then we went to war right after that. Do you not think the world changed then? America changed?
I would imagine they did, yeah.
So that meant that our parenting had to change as well. That meant that it wasn't two parents, it was one, right?
For some families, yeah. I would
many,
argue that
for many
before,
military families, it was.
but for many
it was
Black
one.
families, it was always one. I would argue.
But the parenting would only change for like 3,000 families ish, wouldn't it? Or whatever the death toll was, not like America broadly.
Maybe 300,000, not 3,000.
In 9/11?
Yeah.
Damn. America's mashup. Canada's been good.
I have been misinformed.
It was almost 8,000 people, 8 million people went into that war. So for you to say 3,000, what do you think happened?
I think Patty was talking about the death toll, like in terms of the people who.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the people who actually had to go serve.
Mm-hmm. I think this all boils down to, there are different views on this. I think a lot of people would sacrifice a bunch of people they don't know for their own child.
Oh, I'll do it every day, twice on Sunday. Forget about it.
I think that's just the thing that a lot of people would do. And I think that's different than like what Themis was just explaining, which I totally understood.
Okay, can you just tell him?
If your child is also, in harm's way, along with other people being in the same harm's way based on what you do, then the stakes, would be higher because there's not only your child is there, but other people are there. So, I mean,
he's reaching and he needs a ladder. That's what you need to tell him.
Get
a ladder for the reach.
The differences here are just, how people feel about their own individual children and what they're willing to sacrifice, or how much time they have to spend, or whatever the case may be, depending on the individual. That is the differentiating factor. That's it. Like it's not really anything else. So different people are going to feel differently about this.
All right, Elise.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
You're the last caller.
I just want to say, being a parent is definitely hard. I think it's harder when you don't have the support. When you I think a lady mentioned earlier, you don't have that family support. You don't have that sense of community. That's what generally makes it harder for any parent. I also want to say, in some situations, being a parent, it can be extremely hard. You have people that has mentally disabled children. If a woman has multiple, like triplets, twins, that could be very taxing and very hard, So it definitely does depend on the situation. But in my mind, when somebody has support, like the housewife situation, if you're a housewife and you have someone out doing the other half, that can be stressful as well, then in my mind, that does make it easier for you. It shouldn't be as hard when you do have that other side of it.
So you
because you have a lot of people who
you would easily concede then that there's some kind of parenting that is not as hard as some kind of jobs.
Or would you say that parenting? No, because you're framing up the question disingenuous.
After. Elise?
Okay, go ahead again, Themis. What did you say?
There are some kind of parenting that aren't as hard as some kind of jobs.
I agree. There is because.
Wait. Ask your question now, Annalicia.
Is it because parenting changes over the course of time?
Well, like I said, everybody's situation is different. For me, a housewife who has that other partner going out to get that money, that takes a lot off of her, and which makes it a little bit easier. It's not going to be as hard for her as it is for a woman that does not have that family support, that does not have that sense of community. And let's just say, let's add the fact that she has multiple kids. Of course, it's going to be harder for her. But the housewife who has the in-laws, who has the husband, she has to just solely worry about the kids and the household. It will be a lot easier for her as a parent.
I've already acknowledged. Again, I already acknowledged, even when Themis's mom came on, I acknowledge that there are variables that change the way that we look at parenting or the way that we feel about parenting. I've conceded to that point already. That parenting changes over the course of time. Like, again, I've said it kind of ebbs and flows, and sometimes what's demanded of us, what's required of us can change, obviously, as children get older. I don't think that necessarily... I don't think that makes it less difficult. If your main purpose or your goal is for your child to be happy, successful, better off than even you are, I don't think that the level of difficulty mentally and emotionally, I don't think that over time it changes because you're...
See, I think like while we're having this whole conversation for the past couple of hours or whatever, I think that the if it was said like what do people care about most, like their kids or their job, I think the conversation would have gone a little bit more smoothly. I think using the word harder or like more difficult versus less difficult is what is making people disagree, when I really think at the base of it all, we pretty much agree.
Yeah.
I think that like the wording, the use, like I said, of the word hard or difficult is what's making this so blurry for everyone, because I think it would be an easier question to just say like, most people care about their kids more than their job. Like, I think most people would agree with that. But when we start talking about what's harder, that's so subjective. Like, are we talking about harder because you care more, harder because you're more invested in it, harder as in like physically harder like
that is great. That is a great save, except it's not, because I said physically, and Anna and I are disagreeing on physically harder now.
The physically one I didn't understand, but outside of that, because physically I didn't understand that argument. Barring,
but yeah, physically it can be though. I have a friend. She was a single mother with triplets. Try going to the grocery store with triplets by yourself, and then tell me somebody who sits at a computer all day.
Well,
which one could be physically harder? Which one can you be more tiresome from? At the end of the day, you got doctor's appointments with triplets. You got to put them in a car seat, get them out the car seat.
Not even triplets, even one child. Getting a child in and out of a car, in and out of a cart. Like,
okay, but wait, y'all are comparing the wrong things, because no one is saying that it's not physically harder than some jobs. The argument is that there are jobs that are more physically demanding than parenting, regardless of how many kids you have. Because
definitely. I mean, there's definitely jobs that's more physically demanding.
Yeah, that was the argument, and that's why Themis was saying he didn't understand why Annalicia was still saying that physically parenting was always harder.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of jobs that's more physically demanding, but you do have your nuances where sometimes being a parenting can be more physically demanding as well. We all know newborn, when you getting 2 hours of sleep, that could be physically demanding for a lot of people. So
staying up in the hospital with them, having to hold them and stand for hours, like there's like if people understand truly, and that's why I'm saying that there are studies that have already pointed to the fact that parenting or staying at home with your children, parenting is more work is put into it, and it's more difficult than a paid job. People have to really understand the intricacies and the ins and outs of parenting. Like, I don't know.
I would like to be educated. Can you send me those studies?
No, because Cynthia, I'm going to send them to Cynthia.
Oh, wow.
Period. Elise, thank you so much.
Sure, thanks, guys. Oh, and I would love to moderate. I would love to moderate. Oh my goodness.
Shout out to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's read the super chats because you guys don't like being wrong, but you guys are wrong.
I'm not wrong.
The intellectual soapbox. Hello. $4.99. Good to see my sister Kay. Salute to Themis and Thought. Curry up and eat. $1.99. Parenting like prison guard can both be thankless.
Yo, come on, man.
Getting lucky in Kentucky. $9.99. Sometimes when I'm at work as a nurse, it's hard, but nothing compares to being a mom. I'm responsible for hundreds of lives, but it would hit different if I mess up as a parent.
Ooh. Say it again, getting lucky in Kentucky. I'm telling you, the stakes are different. It's not the same. It's not the same.
I don't think that's a win. I'm a nurse, and nursing is harder than parenting.
You're not a nurse. Lift up your hand and slap yourself. You're not a nurse.
No. Right. I get what you did there, Petty. We can't verify any of this. And also, we can get someone who says the complete opposite.
Hurry up and eat. Anna Mike flexing on y'all. You can't stop her now.
Period. Actually, I like the sound.
The Sanderson sisters, $4.99. But she just said she can drop her kid off to the grandma when she wants to relax. A critical mass of people don't have that privilege globally.
Which changes parenting, right? So that parent is going to say, yo, parenting is light work, whereas someone who invests a little bit more time engaging with their child because they don't have the opportunity,
I feel like
they might say it's a little more difficult.
What the argument is then if you're saying this.
I do understand what the argument is.
That would mean there are different kinds of parenting.
I've conceded to that already, but that doesn't change the fact
that is my only argument.
But I still think that it's the hardest thing that you can do. It's the hardest job. If you want to call it a job, it's a job. And if it's a job,
and maybe this is the question that needs to be asked. Do you think that the parent who has the easiest time parenting has a harder job than the person with the hardest job on earth?
What's the hardest job on earth?
I don't know. Whatever you think it is.
Yes.
So the easiest time parenting is still more difficult than the hardest job on earth.
Yes.
Okay. So then, Themis, so do you see okay.
Yeah.
All right. Squid Anime Girl, $5. Single mother of special needs child with no support. She's right. Your approach can determine their behavior.
Sorry, single mother, special needs with no child. She's right. Your approach can exactly 100%.
But y'all see how none of that is addressing the point. This is why people are I don't even understand this fully because the point is not being addressed. And I don't know if we know that we're not addressing the point, but it just feels like the point and
I'm going to say it again. Parenting is the hardest job in the world.
Exactly. And that's the point you have to prove. And that means there is no job in the world that is harder than parenting. Even if there are different kinds of parenting, all kinds of parenting must be harder than every single job in the world. That is Annalisa's position, and that is what we are fighting about. All right.
Wait a minute. Oh, no. But you know what? I've already thrown in the towel with this. Cognitively, I'm drained cognitively. I'm bereft. I've already thrown in the towel with this conversation. That's why I'm singing. But the next time we go live, oh no, I think it's going to be a debate. Then I'll send Cynthia something that I'm a better writer than I am an orator, so I'll write it up and then I'll send it to you.
Wildflower, $1.99. Those variables make Themis correct.
Yes.
Themis is wrong.
Lat 73, $1.99. What about parenting during war in a war zone?
What's harder than that?
Period.
But really, what would be harder than that?
New University. I mean, everyone already said that there were levels.
Even if I agree that is the hardest job in the world, that wouldn't be every single parent. So therefore, all parents would not. All right, I'm done. I think I'm done. I feel like no one is getting the argument.
We
get it.
No,
I get it too.
To be fair, something that I do appreciate with you, Kay, is that you could articulate my position correctly. Even if you disagreed with it, you could do that. And that's like important to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that when you have the conversation, though, you have to define parenting. I think defining parenting is probably the single.
No, I don't have to define parenting.
No.
You do.
No, I did define it, though.
Yeah, but you have to do it in a way where everyone agrees with you. If people disagree with parenting, then you don't get to define, unless you need to prove that you get to define parenting for everyone else.
So if you're going to have a debate,
good parenting,
right? So if you're going to define good parenting, you're saying that everybody in the world has to agree with that definition?
Yes.
Okay.
A critical enough mass have to agree with it and say, this is what good parenting is. If you don't meet the standard, you're not a good parent. And then we can say, all right, if doing this for everyone the hardest job in the world. But if it differs, then we have a problem.
And honestly, like if we were trying to make it so broad that everyone agreed, the qualifications to be a good parent probably, Annalicia, would not fit your standards for what you think a good parent is, because they would be so bare minimum in general. Because like the one for everyone, I mean, would be so bare minimum in general, since everyone has to agree. It would be like, make sure your kid's alive, make sure that they, it would be very basic. And that
too high, it would cut off more than 90% of parents.
Yeah. That's where the problem would
come in. because good is foundationally, is fundamentally subjective.
Yeah.
How would you define parent? How would you define a parent? So within the context of this conversation, if we're talking about parenting being the hardest job in the world, or being whatever, what would parenting be and look like for you?
A parent is a person who is raising a child.
What is raising a child to you?
Giving them food, clothing, and shelter.
So the bare minimum.
The bare minimum.
They're still a parent, yeah.
Okay. So what is a more intimate version of that?
I don't understand.
If that's what parenting is, Jesus Christ.
Well, that is what it is.
What is parenting? Like, if you have to qualify parenting, so good parents, for example.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, for me, parenting is okay. So as a baseline, or based on the definition, it's providing the bare minimum. I think that the more intimate and more connected and more intricate parenting is the involved and engaged parent. Now, and I'm not talking about a helicopter parent. I'm just talking about a parent who is involved and who's engaged.
How involved would that need to be?
Involved to the extent that you're able to create a path for your child, and you're able to see that they are able to go down that path successfully, happily, and healthily.
What if they don't go down that path? Does that make you fail as a parent?
No, you can.
Okay, so that's not a good parent then. Creating the path and making sure your child go down the path.
No, you asked me what makes you an engaged parent.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be an engaged parent if they didn't go down the path you created for them.
No, you would.
So that's not what made you an engaged parent then.
That's not the only thing that would make you an engaged parent. And this is where you and I will never agree, because part of engagement is the emotional capacity that you have to invest in your child. How do you quantify that? There's nothing that I can give you that's going to quantify it, where you're going to be able to recognize it, or when you hear it. It's the emotional investment, it's the mental and psychological investment, and those things are not tangible. I can't show you what those things look like, but I can tell you that the effects of those things, and I can tell you the outcomes of those things produce well-adjusted children. Yes, I can, because that's what the research says.
You cannot show me the outcome of a parent. You can be as good a parent as you want.
I can show you the outcome of I just told you there is research that will tell you the outcome of children who are well adjusted and who have better outcomes. It's based on parents' engagement. It's based on an emotional capacity.
Not even Stingy would agree with you on this.
Oh my God. Okay.
The research actually says the culture has more of an impact than your parenting. So if you think you can look to the child's outcome to determine how good the parent was, you would be sadly mistaken.
So that the culture or society has an effect, does that negate the parent's effect?
I'm not saying you shouldn't try, but
no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if it negates it.
It can. You cannot look to the child's
But does it? Oh my God.
It can.
Well, I would actually say that probably is what makes the job harder then. Right?
No matter how good a parent you are, it does not mean the child is going to be good. Therefore, you cannot look to the child's outcome to determine how good a parent you are. In fact, you could be a bad parent and your child come out from a utilitarian perspective to be a good adult. Yes, you can.
That's not what I said. First of all. Second of all, if I'm gonna go along with your premise that the culture and society has a more profound impact on a child than parenting, that would bring me full circle to my original argument, which means that parenting is more difficult than anything else. Because if you're competing with the broader society and world of which you have no control over,
that you cannot
then what's harder than that? What's harder than than not being able to control something that has a profound impact on your child?
There is so many things. Do you know what?
What?
There are so many things you can control in life, even in regards to literally any job.
What's harder than that? I'm asking you. Now I'm genuinely asking.
Raising a child.
Soldier.
That's what I'm saying.
Why do you guys keep talking about fucking soldiers? Like, what
percentage?
Because
you can't control. Depending on where you are as a soldier, you can't control your life. You're told what to do. You have no control over your life or when you risk it or give it up. So if you're defining it as difficult because you don't have any control against what outside forces would do, then I can say soldier for that.
Soldiers understand that though. So there are parameters that are set out for soldiers. Soldiers know that their life for whatever in the interim or for whatever period of time, they know that they're going to have a very transient type of life, that they're going to be in and out of different states, that they're going to be stationed in different places, but they're also compensated for those things, are they not?
For risking your life?
For risking their lives, for having a transient lifestyle, for being in and out, going to having or do they not have health benefits? Are they not compensated for these things? Okay, so then it's not different. So it's parallel. It's the same then.
Huh?
I don't think you understand the comparison we are making.
I do understand. Oh my God, I understand the I understand the comparison. I'm done with this conversation. Parenting is that you just reminded me why parenting is is the most difficult endeavor that one will undertake in their life if they choose to truly undertake it. But if defining good parents and parenting and this and that, that's a conversation for you and Cynthia, I guess. Because I'm definitely out of that conversation.
Yeah, what I was saying didn't have to do with compensation. It had to do with it being hard. So it wouldn't matter if it was compensated or not. We were talking about the difficulty. You described
something right, but if someone's being paid,
you described the difficulty of parenting as having to do with the fact that there are outside forces that you can't control. So I made the soldier analogy to that.
Right, but if if all variables are the same, if only those two variables are the same and the differentiator is one is paid and one isn't, then yeah, there's a difference. One is more difficult.
Answer this question, yes or no, or maybe you don't have to do yes or no. Does being compensating for something make it more or less difficult?
Yeah, of course. Because the compensation is compensation contributes to the quality of your life. It contributes to all the variables that make something difficult in the first place.
I'm talking about compensation ex post. So after you've done the work, you get the pay. How does that make the work while you're doing it easier physically?
So it doesn't change. It doesn't objectively change how hard something is.
Okay. All right.
Okay, yeah, no, it doesn't objectively change how hard something is, but that it's compensatory, that changes. That change. I don't know. For me, that changes it. If I'm getting paid, at least I know that. At least I know for sure that. I mean, I'm
you
good.
don't think
I'll be fine.
So if I'm writing a book and I love to write the book and I don't get paid for writing the book, but I'm being an attorney and I have to show up to do work that I don't care about, you think it's easier for me to go be an attorney because I'm compensated for it than write a book?
There's more incentive, yeah. It's psychologically different.
All right, period. Let's continue reading the super chats.
Neil University, $4.99. Absolutely. When they were young, you protect them from themselves. However, when they're older, you protect them from themselves. Period.
Period. Thank you.
Getting Lucky in Kentucky, $4.99. I'm at work now, just got called a B word, and being a parent is still harder.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
That's how it is. That's how it is.
Do you have HR?
Right. Who did the calling of that? Curry Up and Eat, $1.99. I like when the ladies come to Schmitz. Christian, $4.99. My coworkers come in on Mondays delighted to finally be at work and not home parenting.
It's a reprieve. People don't understand. It truly is a reprieve. It is.
Apple IFC, $5. I agree with Anna about the emotional versus physical versus financial. Having your emotional needs met is a basic need.
Mm-hmm. Applific. Tell them again.
Gia Homed, $1.99. Anna, what's your sign? Taurus, maybe?
You know I'm a Taurus, boo. Love you.
Sin Cloverton James Jones, $5. Can we shift and use average Black people in the hood? BM lift boxes at Amazon. Black men lift boxes at Amazon. Black women lift boxes at Amazon and then take care of kids alone. LOL, love y'all.
Oh yeah, well so in that specific scenario, it would be more difficult to be a mother, a parent, than the guy who works at Amazon, right? But that's not the question. I love you too. Thank you.
So I mean, the thing is, like, with the arguing and stuff and like trying to prove the points, it can't work because there's always going to be something to counter, right? The only thing that works for this argument of saying
wait, don't do that, because one of us is speaking in absolute and the other is not. So if there is even if there is a single example, Anna is wrong.
No, my point is that the only thing that makes it work is how you feel about it, which is not something that can be quantified like objectively. So like that's the thing to stand on, and someone who's trying to quantify it objectively will never agree with that because they don't feel the same way you do, and everyone might not feel the same way that you do. So that's why this argument doesn't really work. There will be constantly something to push back on if it's like, no, because look at this job, or no, because look at what you have to do during there will always be comparisons to be made because everyone is so different and whatnot. But like, the only thing that you can just confidently stand on and be correct, but only for yourself or people that feel similarly, is how you feel about it. That's it. Like, you can't say like, well, it's more physically demanding, because there are things that are more physically demanding. You can't say, oh, it's more mental. Maybe some people think other things are more mentally taxing. I mean, it just depends. So the only place is how you feel.
But when you say we can't debate it, though, that's my position. What you just articulated is fully my position.
Yeah, I get your position. After you explained it and I restated it back to you and you agree that that was what you were saying, I definitely get your position. And I understand people still thinking that parenting is harder, but that's because
do you think parenting is still harder?
Do I think parenting is harder? In general,
no. We can't do in general because it's absolute. Do you think parenting is harder than every single job in the world?
No.
All right. So then you've changed. Well, not changed, but you and I agree. You and I pretty agree.
Yeah, because when we first started talking about this at the very beginning, my first thought was like, yeah, parenting is the hardest because you care about it the most generally.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about, are there instances where parenting is easier than a job? Absolutely. Some people have way more support than other people. Some people don't. I mean, there are just so many different factors. So I get both sides, but I would say being a parent is harder generally.
I would actually say being a parent is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Yeah. It's just that there are instances, right, where it wouldn't be. And that's your argument, which I get that.
I understand it too. Whether or not I'm just being a-hole is a conversation for another day. I have said it once. I'll say it twice. I'll say it 3 times. Yeah, parenting is the hardest. It's the hardest. I didn't say it's the worst job in the world. Don't conflate the hardest and the worst. I said that it is the hardest endeavor. And it's the hardest journey that one goes on and undertake. It's the hardest undertaking that one
Let me explain something too. I could have been a lot nicer, and I intentionally was trying to be as unemotional as I can, because I think people think I'm afraid to disagree with the women on the channel. I promise you I'm not. Let's read the super chat.
Mary Sparkles like, whoa, $5. See, all this to be a parent is why I and others am child free. Maybe when the population dwindles, they'll do what South Korea does and pony up.
Pony up. I like that.
All right. Final thoughts, everyone. Thank you all. This was actually real fun for me. I enjoyed it. I do.
I liked it.
Listen, I'm not I don't think anybody on this panel is like is an advocate for like go and procreate and have babies or stay child free. I think that people should do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. Obviously, don't cause harm and be kind, love each other, blah blah blah. But in general, like I said, with my chest poked out, with my Michael Jordan shirt on, and I am wearing Michael Jordan, so obviously I'm the GOAT. But parenting is the hardest undertaking that life has to offer. Period. 10 toes down, chest poked all the way out. I love you all, and that it is what it is, and I can't wait for next week because Wednesday Cynthia is she's gonna have you up against the ropes. It's gonna be a problem.
I don't want to. Do you guys think childbirth is harder than parenting or easier?
Giving birth?
Yeah. Well, everybody watching, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're not.
I thought Anna was about to answer.
Subscribe.
I thought you were going to answer
already.
No, I want to hear what your response is, Anna.
But
do you think childbirth is harder than parenting?
It's, I don't know.
I think childbirth is one of the most dangerous situations that a person can be in. So like,
it can kill you. Childbirth can kill you.
So is
what
it
is your point in the parenting journey? Are they trying to kill you?
Is it harder?
I mean, the stress from raising a child, depending on, no, giving birth is.
I don't think those can be compared.
I was supposed to, it's not comparable. Like, and I find with men, especially, men superimpose comparisons that have no business being compared. That's one of them. That's one of them.
I was recalling Kay's earlier question about would you rather take a physical pain or a mental pain? And you guys both seem to be describing child rearing as not really as physical demanding as like the hardest jobs, but mentally like really draining and stuff like that, emotionally. That's what I brought the comparison.
That when you brought that up, that's immediately what I thought, because I was like, one is physical, but maybe doesn't last as long. I mean, some people do have lifelong complications, from childbirth. And then the other one is like longer lasting. I thought that that's where you were going with that.
But the thing about emotional pain is emotional pain can trigger physical pain. Oftentimes,
and physical pain can trigger emotional pain.
Right. So they're sort of like, they're kind of like inextricably linked in a way, actually.
Yeah. Yes, because Sagittarians love to argue a Cancer. Period. Go ahead, Kay. Your final statements.
Men are gonna men, Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? Men are gonna be men. It is what it is.
You're now Themis is lumped in with every other man?
No, Themis did that to himself. Period. Okay.
See how easily like you can just be okay. Final thoughts. I think I had a lot of final thoughts. I think people should do what works for them.
Yeah, don't have kids if you don't want to have kids, and if you don't want to have kids, it doesn't make you a monster. It doesn't say anything about you.
My final thought.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, I love the way you just did that. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Because just saying, yeah. But people should do what works for them. When you're married, in terms of your finances, do what works for y'all. Make sure you communicate about it. In terms of child rearing, do the best you can. Try to have support if you can. Ask for help if you need it. Just work on having the best outcomes for yourself and your children. And those are my final thoughts about that.
Patty, besides the question, do you have final thoughts?
I'm tuckered
so
out.
If you hired a woman to give birth to your child, no, go ahead.
I'm tuckered out. Tuckered out. Yeah, I just want to make sure people are leaving a like on the video and subscribing if they're not already. IDGAB and all that.
I just also want to say that trauma, as characterized by mental, emotional, and psychological pain, it actually shortens your lifespan by like 20 to 30 years. So suck on that, Petty. I love you all.
To end by answering the question, I think childbirth is harder generally. Although I do think
nobody asked you. Good night, everybody. We love you.
It can vary depending on the type of
men. What do you know? Anyways,
the type of pregnancy, the type of birth that you do.
I know. Listen, guys, we love you. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Men are going to be men, but forget about them, okay? Because.
So I believe that depending on what
I forgot you had that power. That you put it.
I was like, I know she didn't just leave on her own.
You know what? Next time I will, though.
Next time I was confused.
I won't continue because I'm a man. I shouldn't speak on women's bodies. I'll end by saying that.
What do you know about anything? Forget about it. Slap yourself with both hands. Good night, everybody. We love you.
Night. Wait. We're in the back.